still connecting. Hello. You can hear me, Rocks? That is good. What's up, Patrick?
Hello.
Hey, Eric, how you doing? Dennis will
Good.
be on any second. Good to
No
see
rush.
you.
Good to see you too.
How was your games last weekend?
Oh, they were good. They were good. Played another one yesterday.
Awesome.
Yeah, things are. We are into. I guess they're up to 6th level now. I have a campaign arc plan to take them from 1st to 18th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they're on their 6th, and it's kind of a high. So I'm writing a 6th and a 7th level adventure, but frankly they're intermixed with each other, and they're both set in the city. So it'll be. It's been kind of interesting because the first couple were dungeon crawls, the next 2 or 3 were sort of wilderness with little village stopovers, and now they're in the quote unquote big city of 6,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been good.
Who's playing in it? Anyone we know?
A lot of guys used to help me with the realms, so George Krashnos and Tom Costa, Stephen Shem, who used to write for Teams all the time, and then Brian Riestadt and Jeff Bedford, who runs the Mages and Sages podcast. Brian had done the Realms lore with Yuzi back in the 90s, and then Grant and Spike. So it's a big group, 8
Nice.
people. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Hopefully I didn't forget anybody.
What edition? What are you playing? You playing 5th or 2nd or
3rd.
3rd? There you go.
3rd is my most comfortable one. I'm actually running the same campaign for my son and nephews and a couple of their friends, but I'm running it in 5th, which is like kind of weird running the 2 campaigns in different editions, and the kids, of course, are way far ahead of the old geezers. They're
as far as familiarity and comfort level. Yeah.
Oh, but also how fast they're going. They're on the 10th adventure.
Oh my gosh. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Dennis.
How's it going? Can
Good
you hear
to
me?
see you, man. Good to see you.
What's the buzz? What's shaking? It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's just been busy. Really, really busy. Had that fundraiser.
Hey, Eric.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Had that.
Yeah, you've been busy. Well, you're like every night. You're streaming something.
Well, really, my normal. It's only Tuesday. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, but with Anna and Alyssa Faden's show once a month on Fridays, and then I do a lot of the Saturday night specials, or Tim or Casey Brown doing some Saturday morning. It's been adding up, but like last week was crazy because I had I had the St. Jude fundraiser with Luke Gygax and Eric Mona and Bolton.
How'd that go?
And Jacob. We raised $8,000, man. It was crazy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. They were fantastic. Eric Mona is the best role player I've ever had on my streams by far none. You know how crazy he is. And,
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and we raised a lot of money. It was great. I'm going to link that in chat for everyone here because it still is open, technically, the Tiltify. So,
Oh, yeah.
Where? How can I not remember which one it's under? I think it's under that one. Yep, thank you. Yeah, so we did $8,000. That was really.
That's pretty amazing, actually.
Thank you, Tino, for the raid. Yeah, the community's really awesome. It really does. They're fantastic people here, and we had a lot of generous donations. All right, let me hit that up next. So it went very, very well. Thank you, Tino. Really appreciate it. I'll hit that resound alert for you when I get to. I'm able to. So you got people still coming on here. So Tim, your computer working now? You said you're having issues with your PC via text. So that's ever mysterious. They call me Tim. Who's in the chat there? Yeah, he's he may hop on because he's he's been a DM friend of mine for years. He's got a couple of specialty priests he's just created for his Barbarian campaign in Rovers of the Barrens.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. So
I've not done much with the Rovers over the many decades. I don't know. I've had a couple of adventures that I've run up there. One of them was a RPGA adventure, actually.
oh, okay, cool.
That I needed very isolated old tomb, and so I sent them up there looking for something. But
That way it'll look better. I'll leave it like that, top to bottom. I think that may fill the zoom thing better. We'll see. So Tim's has done his for a higher level one for Greyhawk Con and Gary Con, and now he started a first level one, which he runs on Saturday mornings, like once a month, live stream, and it's going very well. And the next one is this upcoming Saturday in the morning, so it's going good, real good. What's up there, Canadian? The Rovers there it's at. I don't know about that, Tim, but you're doing a real good job with it. So yeah, chat's active already.
oh, I don't see it.
Oh, you just get on your Twitch, man. Right?
I am.
Pop up. Oh, really? Oh, make sure you refresh.
Oh, there. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I had to click again.
Yeah.
I had to
put the
click
Rovers
again.
where it's at. Barons and I use targets. Yeah. Yes, Patrick. Thank you. I got 4 things from you. I really appreciate it. Yep. Thank you so very much. So tonight's a TLG giveaway, so we'll hit that up, and then we'll do some other stuff too, I think. Of course, depending on what will be good here. I'm really excited about this discussion. I've been waiting for this for months. Holding off.
Sorry, it's all my fault.
Dennis, this is perfect timing. It just
I kept putting you off and putting you off and putting you off.
It's okay.
Uh-oh, cat attack.
Oh, cats are fine on stream.
She spends a large part of my workday sitting on my lap. But because of her claws, I have to have her sitting on a box.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Right on that lap, so she's not needing it, right?
Yes, and it's but the constant demand for face massages.
Nice. So hopefully everyone's doing well tonight as we're starting to crank up here. So we're up against Gary Con Live, and I think Stefan Picorni's got a game going on right now. But I'm not worried. Yeah, we should be fine. We should be good with this.
Oh, is Gary Con this weekend?
No, the Gary Con Live channel had Founders and Legends this weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So both of you, if you would please, I'll talk about this later, mark down that Sunday, October the 3rd for Virtual Greyhawk Con, the last event. Ask the Experts. Like we did for Gary Con, which was a huge success and a fun time.
Yeah, that was good. That was a nice session.
We'll finish up the Greyhawk Con with that too.
Oh, before we get started.
Yep, take your time.
I better fill up my water glass so that I
Fill it
don't
up.
choke. I don't choke.
Had to put one of your books up there.
Oh, thank you. It's been a little while, but I like it.
Where you see the pile I have next to me of all the books that I probably missed some that I used to put together all the specialty priests. I think I got them all, but I could miss some. It's crazy.
Yeah, it would be. I really wish there was like a 192-page book just of Greyhawk.
It would have been awesome. It would have been fantastic. What's up there, Troy? Thanks for that sub. I think we got 2 subs now. Someone throws Valerius did it. I don't know if it's within 5 minutes, but if someone throws 100, we may even get a hype train to start off here. Hey, David, what's going on, man? Specialty Priest Night.
Oh, is that what the topic was?
The crowning achievement. One of the best, my opinion, an awesome thing to come out of ought to come out of. What's up, Bill? Second edition. Here we come on. We're gonna come on 2 to 3 minutes early, and I don't think anyone's gonna complain about that. I'll turn this off. Boom. Hit the right button, Jay. Don't crash anything. Don't crash anything. Good evening, everyone. Whoops. Let me hit this and see. See, is this better that way? Is it better that way? Or is it better this way? I think it's better that way. I think I like it top to bottom. Or what do you guys think? Hey, Anna. Anna gets a night off for the next 2 weeks. She's excited that she doesn't have to come on Gabbin the next 2 weeks. So that's awesome. So, I'm going to leave it like this. So good evening, everyone. I'm J.K. Lord Gazamba. I got some wonderful guests tonight. Like I said, I've been waiting for like 9 months for this show. I was like, let's do this. First off, would you call you the grandfather of the specialty priest, the patron of the specialty priest, Eric Boyd? Yes.
You want me to? Yeah, no, I've been doing the specialty priest for a long time. They were a lot of fun to start, and so maybe you can just call me old. How's that?
Well, you've been around as long as myself and Denis. All three of us together probably have combined almost 120 years, right? Seriously. We're each in the 40-plus year. Hey, Time Lords. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you so very much for that, Ray. Good to see everyone there.
Yeah, let me see now. It's been 41 years since I started playing.
Yeah, my campaign's 41 years old, and I started in '78, so we're about almost exactly dead on the same there.
Yeah, I started in 1980.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So, Eric, what year did you start dabbling?
So I remember buying the Monster Manual and the Player's Handbook off the shelf, and I remember waiting for the Dungeon Master's Guide to come out.
There you go.
Oh wow,
Battle
79.
Yeah, so I
yeah.
think it was 79. That makes
Nice.
about right.
Yeah, well, we're all right there.
Yeah.
And you're right, 120 years.
Yeah, exactly. Think about that.
My God.
Yes, I mean, so for all of us, and I'll thank you there, Walt. Walt, you and I got to talk about Greyhawk Con still, and I'm really excited about this discussion because I don't know if you can see it, but I'm gonna give myself a hernia. This is the pile, and that's an old one from a monkey. This is the pile that I use to put together my specialty priests, or have, it's crazy. So there are some third edition books in here, because I use some spells, particularly spells from the Sword and Sorcery people, which is fantastic. I love, and Necromancer Games. I love their stuff, but if you go down here, I don't know, there's 20 some books here. Denis, I don't know about you, but
I'm the lightweight of you three, of you two. Obviously there's been specialty priest information in a lot of things starting kind of just before second edition started.
Set up to give away.
Greyhawk Adventures kind of dabbled.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. One spell each at most.
Yeah, and then the priest article, or all the god articles that came through Dragon magazine, right?
That's what I was gonna say. I remember, I think Dragon 67 sticks in my head. I think was Heronius, and they switched the weapon you could use. I think, if I remember correctly, so it was like
an axe.
Just a little, well, you could argue maybe.
Yeah, and Tritherion, the priest spear, and So it that was kind of the beginning of making priests unique. Obviously, if each god is unique, the priests should be unique as well. I always hated the generic cleric.
I do too.
It never made sense to me, and so I banned them from my campaign.
It makes sense if you're playing St. Cuthbert, maybe, right? I mean, or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
Or Fultus, maybe, or some of those.
But no, I mean, it always felt. I mean, the weirdest place for me was like when you're worshiping some god of thieves, right? And you're running around in chainmail with a mace. I mean, it's just like, that's, I would argue that maybe even the druid kind of started it. Because the
Yeah,
druid was kind of a way of saying,
it
I
was
mean,
a
that was kind
specialty
of the
priest.
first specialty priest, right?
Yeah, to say a nature priest really shouldn't follow what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and then once you start with that, then you can start carving out some of the rest of them.
Yeah.
It's
Then yeah, there should be
good.
different for gods of war. There should be, well, the evil gods should be different as well than a
Mhm.
healing god, obviously, right? And yeah, no, it was a natural progression, I think, that had to happen, that would have happened. But yeah, I pulled my specialty priest information from quite a large number of books, but
You're all in for a treat, by the way. Dennis has all his, unlike me, who you got to beg to get mine. You can download. You can
Well,
download all of
yours-
Dennis's tonight.
I think you've gone into far more detail in
Yours are great.
specialization than I have.
Wait
I
till you
just
see this.
scratched.
You're in for a treat. Dennis has gone beyond, above and beyond with his website and put up some really cool stuff that we're going to share with everyone tonight. So, so back in the day when you had clerks still kind of make sense. Clerk mages, fighter clerk thieves. I mean, okay, keep them generic because, you know, if you make them a specialty priest with a fighter, you know, the triple class half elf, you're really giving them a lot of power. So I kind of understand it there. But when second edition came out and I saw what had been done, and I don't know if I have the time frame here right, but I don't know if it was Bastion of Faith I loved. And I know, Eric, you said you did the priests in here, right?
Yep, I did. Yeah.
All right, so let's
Oh, okay, you did Bastion.
yeah,
Okay.
so here let's make sure
Bastion is just
hopefully I don't mess
so
this up.
incredibly detailed. It's
Hopefully I
just
don't mess
amazing.
it. See, look at this. All right. I got some stuff set up here. Let me go to Bastion here.
Oh,
Yes.
smooth.
Yes, there we go. So Bruce Cordell was on, and Bruce Cordell, I asked him what he did parts of this, and he gave us, you know, the answer. I did a lot of it, but some of it. But then Eric, when he came on the show, said he did the two specialty priests in here. So I don't know if these came first, before, or after your books here. And please note that
they came right after Faiths and Avatars.
Okay, so Faiths and Avatars was number one. So note that Eric is the second writer on Faiths and Avatars, correct? Behind
yes, there's a bit of a funny story there. So
yeah, Julia Martin, yes, and this is the Faiths and Avatars. Hey, it's Forgotten Realms. Steal from them, trust me. We'll talk about that too. So yes, tell us the story, please.
Oh yeah, so like I was right. So first off, I really always liked the gods, and I liked both Greyhawk and the realms. I just loved all the different gods that there were. And in both of the settings, they're like you would see these little random one-off mentions of gods you hadn't heard of before. And I was like, you can't just have a god that you mention in one sentence. You have to figure out what they're like. Yeah. And so Ed Greenwood in particular was dropping breadcrumbs as he'd write articles where he'd mention all these random gods, and I kept writing them down. So I pitched this article idea to Polyhedron. I think it was Jeff Quick at the time. I don't remember. And said, well, how about I write you some little short write-ups of like the forgotten deities, the ones that, you know, there's only a sentence or two here or there. And they said, okay, that sounds good. And so I started churning them out like one a month, writing one of them. And then around that time, I realized that Julia and Ed were writing this Faiths and Avatars book. And Julia, it was wonderful to work with. So was Ed. And so I offered to kind of like send them some of the information I'd figured out. And then I was like, well, could I see maybe one of the ones you've written up? And then I wrote back and said, here's a few ideas on how to add to it. And by the end of the book, I was writing a good chunk of them. So she actually ended up adding the with part because I had written a huge chunk of it, as had Ed. And so we probably, you know, wrote about a third of it each between myself and Ed and Julia. And then they asked me to write the next two after that with Julia as the editor. So it was a lot of fun working with her and with Ed on that. But it kind of was like, you know, just kind of like, well, can I give you a little more information? Can I help a little bit more? Can I help a little bit more? Which is not the normal way you end up writing for a company.
My guess is you guys got paid by the word, because you can barely read the writing in these books. I mean, it's crazy how small the script is in these books. It's unbelievable.
I just hate missing anything.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
We had this format, and you know, the part of the format I hated the most was the avatar stats. And the part I liked the most was like describing what the deity looked, or what the priest robes looked like,
Yeah.
and what the religious rituals were like. And I wish we could have left out the stat blocks and done even more of that. But it at least gave you a little bit of flavor to give you some titles, because back in like first edition, everybody had some titles. So we walked through as you would go up, what
Types of
titles you would
special priests,
have.
yes.
How many clerics there were versus specialty priests. And actually, Face and Avatars introduced some additional classes too, like the Crusader,
Which I
and the
use.
and the Mystic.
Yeah,
There
nice
was a bunch of
Crusader.
different ones in
Yeah.
there. And so it was just kind of fun to kind of like tease out what the religions were like. And the way I would do it is, you just kind of sit down and you go, all right, let's imagine I'm rolling up a character. And tonight I'm just planning to be, a priestess of Talona. What would I want? Right? And then that would inspire several hours of writing to try to come up with it. And then the next night you have to like get all that out of your brain, and now you're a priest of Torm. What do you want? And you kind of like plow through that. But really, I tried to write every single one of them like, I was going to have to play this character in the campaign the following week, and I wanted to love it. That was really the hope.
It is. So these books are brilliant. If you do not have these three, and I don't care if they say Forgotten Realms, everyone, too bad, right? All right. So let me tell you something. If you want to create a specialty priest for a Greyhawk deity, these three books are a must. I mean, they are. And I'm talking about Face and Avatars, demi-human deities, and you notice there's Eric's name right on this one, and powers and pantheons. All right, all three books are a necessity, because even if you don't, you get demi-human deities in here already written up. Okay, so they cross over into Greyhawk, a lot of them. You got like Solinor and a ton of them. All the halfling, dwarvish, dark elf, they all cross over.
I think pretty much everything that was in the monster mythology that lined up with one of those was in some respect.
Absolutely, and so they're fantastic, but it gives you an idea of how to do them for Greyhawk, and there weren't that many done for Greyhawk at the time. And then, hey, Naz, 36 months, 3 years, you're insane, man. Thank you so very much. But then this book came out, and that's where we get back to. And I'm happy that Dennis, you heard that the Heronius and Hextor priests in this book are by.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're fantastic.
The amount of detail is just unbelievable. You guys really.
Hopefully I don't crash the screen.
It's a lot of work.
It's
a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm going to attempt to do something. I'm going to attempt to open the PDF here. Let me see if I can do this. Bastion of Faith. Okay, I did it, and it went on the wrong screen, but I can put it here.
Yeah.
It's a little PDF. Okay, so if we go to this, there's a lot of great detail in this, and I want to show you where a great basis to start with Greyhawk deities is. You got two in this book that are completely done. I know I'm getting ahead of myself on creation, but let's chomp through this. By the way, once again, tell me that's not Mel Gibson on the cover right there. Obviously, that someone thought that was a joke, and that's Braveheart Mel Gibson right on the cover. So,
yeah, it sure does.
Oh, it sure does. Yeah, tell me about that. So if you come down here,
is that the center one? Is that Maud?
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, someone who
there's Maud.
You get the jokes with everything. Here we go. I'm going to go right to, and now this is Heronius. This is where we start. So tell me a little bit about when you were making these up, Eric, if you remember, some specifics on, let me make that a little bigger. I'm trying to get it to the right size here. There we go. Heronius and the Faith as we start this up. It follows the same way you did the specialty priest from for Forgotten Realms, which is fantastic.
So you're really telling two stories here. One is you're telling a story about the god, and the other is you're telling a story about the faith. And a lot of people don't view those as different, but I always viewed them as different. So when you're talking about the god, you really need to know, nobody runs around going Heronius, 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 right? They want to know sort of like, what are the titles? The Valorous Knight, the Invincible. Those are the things you work into conversation, right? It's like when you're doing writing, you don't want to ever reuse the name over and over again. You want to have alternate names, so it's not boring. It's the same thing in conversation. It's much better if you if you have a bunch of names to go through them. So I kind of would start with that. And if I could, for all these different things, if I could find something somewhere someone had written, and obviously for Hieronymus, the key place to look was the original Dragon article, where
Absolutely.
Gary Gygax kind of laid out what he was
Yeah.
doing and everything, right? And so I tried to be as true to that as possible. You want to get the symbol right. You want to figure out what plane they're in. You want to come up with some aliases. Now, particularly in the realms and sometimes in Greyhawk, if you had a name that seemed too close to, or a name whose portfolio essentially overlapped with the one you were writing, so that it would be boring to write both of them up, then sometimes you'd merge the alias in with the main god so that, because you don't really want, I always thought like most of the aliases were probably different sects, and in fact, even in third edition, we kind of went into the concept of heresies as well, where like, different people believe different things, and we can come back to that. But, so you kind of want to walk through what are the aliases, what are the general range of alignments that can be associated with this, what are the symbol, just basically that gives you your snapshot right up front. Then you need to kind of walk through and talk a little bit about the god itself. Then my least favorite part, kind of give their stat block.
Yeah.
But it's what the format was. And then the part that I actually found more interesting was like the manifestations.
Church, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, no, even before you get to the church.
This other manifestations. Okay.
Yeah. So think about it this way, like, your players are sitting around the campfire, right about to go into the ruined temple or whatever it is of some evil god. And you want Fultus to tell you something, to show them that he's behind them 110%. He doesn't show up and say, nice job, guys, thumbs up. He might do something like, as dawn breaks, there's a bolt of blinding light that, it's almost impossible to see for a few seconds while you're standing there. Those are the kind of things you want to do. There might also be some interesting quote unquote monsters that would be good to see. So like, do you have a bunch of will-o-wisps go by or something like that? Or do you have, some sort of fey races sort of, popping their head out? Something that sort of suggests sometimes there'd be a weird, obscure dragon type that would kind of be associated with the god. So you got that kind of shows you, to me, the manifestations were how you should have interacted with the god, not directly.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, look at look at the serve list here. Greyhawk dragons are on the list. Kyrin,
Yep.
Shadu, really cool monsters, and it would be allies and stuff. It's really neat.
Yeah, so it kind of gives you a sense of like, as a DM, if I don't want the deity showing up, who might he send? And you can just look here and go, oh, I haven't used that before. Let's put a Kieran in or whatever it might be. And then you finally get into the church, right? And once you get into the church, to me, the church is very different than the god himself or herself. You've got like, what is the organization? And because back in second edition, we really focused on clerics and specialty priests, my bias might have been to have no clerics and just had specialty priests. But back then, they really wanted a mix of them because they wanted you to be able to play either kind.
Yep.
And so sort of say, what's the split in the church? Who's more powerful? Are there multi-classes that are common as well, like cleric paladin if it's Hieronymus or something like that? And you give titles for the different ranks, and we're always really vague. You didn't want to give the titles like at first level your title is this, and at second, but we'd give you like 6 or 7 titles to kind of spread out across the levels as you went. And then you sort of get into like, what's the dogma? What does your cleric actually believe? If your cleric, decides to get all preachy on the rest of the party, what's she gonna say or he gonna say, right? What are they gonna wear?
Holy days, yeah.
What holy days are they going to be like? Nope, we're not going in the dungeon. We got to do this today.
Yeah.
And I would try to figure out something that made sense with the calendar, right? If it's a god of winter like Tetreault, then you would, the holy days are probably midwinter, right? But if it's Hieronymus, it might be some, the top 3 battles he ever won. You can kind of do whatever you want, but give your cleric an excuse to like say, nope, today's a holy day. We all got to pray. What are they going to wear? Tell them what they're going to wear. What are they going to, where's their best temple? because a lot of times your cleric is, well, I'm part of the, the company of the stag, but I don't, I'm away from home, but where were you raised? Well, I grew up, working in the temple of whatchamacallit in the city of Greyhawk, right? Where was that big temple? So you have a place your character was from, and then, there was also the question of like affiliated orders, right? There's the main priests, but then there's also these side areas. And we tried to give you a couple orders, maybe suggest what classes were commonly associated with them and what that order was focused on, which might be a little bit different. And then once you got kind of all the way through that and what they wore, then you actually got to the specialty priest. So long answer to your question.
This and the, well, the Heronius one especially, Hexter's in the back, and I'll show you that in a second. This is the top of the line of detail for a special priest anywhere. This is more detailed than the IUs and more detailed than the ones in the slavers, right, Dennis? This is the top.
Oh, that's
Heronius.
nothing. Yeah, nothing goes beyond this level of detail. Yeah, no, this is awesome.
Yeah, and now you have your glory axe. Now, so if we take the glory axe, now the good thing is that both Denis and I have Heronius priests done up. Now, the cool thing about this is once again, and Eric, I'm assuming you did all the spells here too.
Yeah.
These spells are awesome. And there are some spells that Heronius has that no one else gets, all these spells that are so powerful, like Miracle. Maybe I think they moved Miracle into a general though, I think in later editions. But it tells you the races they can be down here on the left, right? It tells you the races, tells you what they can do. They're not out of the multi-class, so it's just straight. So that's all we have in our game is straight glory axes. Then it gives you their special abilities, which are in addition to their spells. Now, a lot of people go, oh, that's too much. It's not. It really isn't, because this is a character that's dedicated on a certain course. And as we show you, Denis has his with his abilities on, and I have mine with my abilities on. So there's a spell list, and there's an abilities list as well. So you got two lists that really make up a priest. This is where you're going to get the flavor of Greyhawk. More than I think them more than anywhere else, because every you can make up any deity you want with the formula I'm going to show you tonight. You can take one from scratch, pick one, pick Tetreault, pick Delib. It doesn't matter. You can make up a priest with their own unique spell list, doing what Eric has done here and what we're going to show you how to do tonight. Because it takes a long time. Right, Denis. It takes hours to do this. Yeah, it does.
Well,
you get a formula.
The way you guys do it, yes. I cheat. I totally cheat, because the base for my specialty priests comes straight out of already done stuff. The list of spheres that I have is the list of spheres that have been published in various Greyhawk. Like, that's okay. Very little of what I have on my sheets is original. Okay. It's put together, but
it's a good starting point though too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. No, sure. But no, I haven't gone into the level of detail that you guys have. No, nowhere near that. Mine are really cheater specialties.
But that's okay. I mean, because they're made up, and if you want to do one for a specific there's about 10, and they're all good priests here. So here's Bolt of Glory. That's a great spell too. Shield of Heronius is a great spell. Call Templars. Come on, that's an awesome spell. Bastion. Now we're getting to the 6th and 7th. But when we get here, Personal Savior is 7th, and Miracle is 7th. And I think, but the Miracle catches, you got to be 18th level to cast it. You got to be some crazy level to cast it.
Yeah, because we wanted to make it match sort of up with wish spell.
Yeah,
right? So we didn't want you getting it faster than the wizard got his wish spell.
Yeah, so I think they get 7th level spells in the old school at 16th, and I think this one you had to be 18th to get it. If I recall, in here somewhere it says it. But so you got some great spells here. Now let me scroll through and just show you that that hex store, which is in the back, and it got some magic items too, which are fantastic. And if we scroll
so for folks who don't know about this whole Bastion of Faith, the whole idea behind it was it's detailed as if it's a temple that you can go to that's a temple of Heronius, but if you're like, that's boring, I'm just, that's the place where they go rest and recuperate, I'd rather have a dungeon, you can flip it around and make it a temple of Hexter, and then your players are attacking it, right? Presumably. And so that was the idea in the back here of doing the specialty priest of Hexter, was to allow you to flip it around and make, because Heronius and Hexter are such mirrors of each other, make it possible to turn the whole thing into that evil temple in the Great Kingdom or wherever that you want to storm.
What's cool about Hextor priests, if I recall, they can be assassins and thieves, right? So yes, they can multi-class. Yes.
That was something that what I would try to do is like, so you can see, there's basically usually some required proficiencies, right? There's you list out what armor they can wear. Some of them would have like less armor, right? I'm looking at
Ouija has none.
Right, yeah. I'm looking at Curl on my screen, and he has like leather and padded leather and studded leather and elven chain,
Roush has the same way, just leather for Roush. Yeah.
But then then I would think about, is this only humans, or does he allow a few more in?
Half orcs are in this. Half ogres too. See, this is where I love you, Eric. Humans, half orcs, half ogres. Or we can do without the tiefling, but that's okay. Cambion or Alu Demon version was perfect, right? That's awesome. I mean, so you got the half ogre in there specifically, which is really, really cool that it's allowed. Yeah. And you're playing half ogre in my game, so
exactly.
Very cool.
And then so sometimes we'd let more sub races, more other races, usually half elf or half orc, but sometimes we let a couple of them in. And sometimes we'd let a multi-class, and sometimes we wouldn't. But the idea was to give it flavor. You weren't doing it to min max, you were doing it for flavor.
Absolutely.
You had to read it and go, man, I want to play that character.
And the great thing about the priestess is that's exactly what happened in my campaign. It breathed life at that time, and I guess the 90s. We're talking about early 90s, that era. I think this came out in 99, so it was late 90. Whenever it breathed a huge amount of life into the campaign, and we started getting a lot of specialty priests to the point wherever we did a new first level group, they're so hard. It takes a while to make. I said I'm only making up one new specialty priest every time there's a new group, so they all jumped on it. And last time we did a new first, it was Ula. I did a specialty priestess of Ula, who I had never done before, and that's the one I added in. So it's pretty neat. Now this spell, Battle Arms, is awesome. This is a really cool spell because just like Hexter, you get the extra arms. So you get 2 extra arms, and then when you're 11th level higher, you get the 4 extra arms. And you can fight with them just like with shields or with weapons and all. And that's really, once again, this spell is only for Hexter. So you're not going to see any other. You're not going to see Nerul. You're not going to see Ayus. You're not going to see them get them. You don't give them that spell. That keeps your flavor to Hexter. So I love that book. But let's do this. Let's see. Okay, now here, don't cheat, everyone. I'm gonna. There's your link to this page, okay? And then you can grab all these off there. All right, so Dennis has done some great work here. All right.
Yeah, there isn't actually even a link from my my directory page yet for this. Haven't been able to connect it up yet, but yeah.
So, I thought you had Heronius. My bad. I don't see Heronius.
No, actually, yeah, no, I don't. I have Heronius done, but it's not in public quality set up right now. These are the ones that were fancied up because I had recent players who've used them, so they were in good shape that I could whip them up this week and get them on.
So, if you got Heronius, you don't have Bastion of Faith, you can't get access to it. There should be enough data on spheres, and we'll talk about that in Greyhawk Adventures, okay? Yep. Or From the Ashes, my Fall Apart book here also has all the spheres as well for Heronius, okay? So there's your other 2 options, and has some of the other spell abilities per level, what they get. And we're going to show that right now. Let's do, all right, so real quick, why don't we do St. Cuthbert, because I bet you they're pretty similar between you and me. All right, so
probably.
I'm going to click on St. Cuthbert here.
Okay.
And look at this. This is the spell list is done for you and everything. The complete spell list by, and this is by Denis, Maldin, Tetreault, okay? So you got the whole thing. You got your powers. You have your spheres. And you have what's major and what's minor, right? So you got your minor wards, okay? And then you have your symbol. You have turn undead at level -4. A lot of people don't know that St. Cuthbert's shitty at turning undead. But that's true because they're not. That's not their bane. So they're not very good at turning undead. And then here are special powers, friends. Now they have 3 separate sects, which I found kind of a little silly because they get no other abilities. I think I kind of merged them together on mine. Friends, spell, Shillelagh, ESP, True Seeing, which is awesome. Here are the only weapons they can use. And then the armor's any and plate mail for affordable. Here are your spells. Notice the TM is definitely Tome of Magic. I know that. Do you have players' options in here?
Actually, I don't think I have players' options in there.
All right, so you got up to the Tome of Magic, Unearthed Arcana, and first edition.
Yep.
Okay, that's great. I mean, look at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did one too, in Polyhedron 129 as well. I'm just sort of looking at them together. And very, very close.
And I have that right here because we talked about that last time. St. Cuthbert. I know that's one you got because you did bot here. This, right?
Yep.
St. Cuthbert of the Cudgel, and you have the abilities and everything on here. And this is Polyhedron 1. So there's 3 ones by Eric Boyd. He did St. Cuthbert, Bakub, and another Polyhedron, and Procan,
and also Curl.
Yeah, I think I have that one right behind this one. Yep, Curl.
Oh,
yep.
Okay, so we have all those available, and if you don't know where they are, what I may do, I'll scan these all in and put them in one PDF, and then for those who want to get access to that Greyhawk information, I'd be more than happy to do that. So, yep. So let me put mine up, and we'll see what the differences are between our Cuthbert priest here. I don't think it's going to be that much at all, because I think Cuthbert is not a very popular or playable specialty priest in my campaign. In fact, I get more Crusaders of St. Cuthbert, Eric, than I do specialty priests of them, which kind of makes sense, because then they get all the lawful spell spheres from that. But let me go to, all right, so here we go. I'll go to priesthood of St. It should go right over there, does it? And I did the Word doc. That was wrong. Because it's only in a Word doc. Duh, me. All right, so I got to throw this over here. All right, so here's my abilities, wisdom, and notice, I still have it there. Billet, chapeau, and stars. I didn't make the change, so it's exactly the same, right? There you go. It's identical. It's identical with abilities, completely.
Well, we were pulling it from the same source, right?
Absolutely. This one's completely identical, but I bet you my spell list is slightly different. Let's take a look here. So let me go to St. Cuthbert and spells. St. Cuthbert, please be... Okay, good. This one's in PDF. And what do you see this mess? Oh my, what a mess. What a mess. Okay.
Little hand scrolls.
All right, so that's all the 3rd edition. So,
okay.
All right. So this is a freaking mess. And as I keep on updating, notice I have players' option spells in here. I have spells from that Book of Hallowed Might by Monty Cook 3rd edition. I have spells from ES's Eldritch Sorcery, RR's Relics and Rituals. They are Necromancer. They were Sword and Sorceries. Players Handbook 3. I've had added Doom, Random Action, Shield of Faith, Bull Strength, Endurance, Shield Other, Sound Burst. They're all 3rd edition. I put into 2nd. Ironheart, Relic and Rituals, Holy Smite. I added Player's Handbook 3. I love Chaos Hammer, Holy Smite, Lawfuls, whatever, and Unholy Blight. Right, Eric? They're the ones. Those are 3rd edition spells that are damaging area effect spells that priests can cast. Now I don't give them to clerics, but certain specialty priests get them. So Holy Smite was given back to them for good alignment, and so there you go. So it's the same list, just with a couple other spells added. So very cool. But as you can see, I got with 40 some. This is how I update. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to keep on updating them. So that's a base. I'd say Cuthbert's as basic as it gets. What'd you say, Eric, on that?
Yeah.
About probably the most basic of them all is the Cuthbert
Mm-hmm.
one. The clerics.
Except for the 3 different
Yeah, which is
skills.
a little strange. That they didn't go into any more. That would have been a great place for someone to build up an article and do detail on them.
Yeah.
I think that would be a 5e. But I don't think there are cleric spells limited to only certain deities in 5e. Correct? Armin, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, are there spherical spells that are listed by? I'm not sure.
So the way I did it. So I mean,
Fifth.
if I'm remembering correctly, the distinction was back from the original Dragon article in the 60s, whenever it was that came out, that was talking about Cuthbert. And
Yeah.
so what I did was, you could have done 3 different specialty priests, which I was tempted to do, right, to try to really match the flavor. But that seemed, I was battling word count here as well. Polyhedron didn't have a big word count.
Right.
So what I did instead was, I basically gave them all the same first level ability, 6th and 9th and 12th. But I gave them, in the 2nd to 4th level range, I gave each order a different extra, unique power.
Oh.
So at 2nd level, billets get friends. At 3rd level, chapeau gets shillelagh. And at 4th level, stars get ESP.
All right, so you did that.
Yeah, so
Oh
I
my
split it up
gosh.
that way. Yeah.
So I looked through the From the Ashes notations on credits, and I couldn't find you in there. And I thought that would be, was it Greyhawk Adventures where that happened first, or
There was some in there, but yeah, I'm just
Okay.
saying how I wrote it up for Polyhedron was
Okay.
splitting it up like that, because the other way to go would have been to
That's where.
come up.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why you can't do multiple specialty priests for one god as well, right? Particularly, like, I don't know, Ouijas might be one where I'd be tempted to do that, right? If they've got 2 really distinctive feels to them, that's when you start getting into that. The thing I played it with in 3rd edition a little bit, and some of this was in the realms, but it works just as well for Greyhawk as well, is like, Roger Moore did great articles like on the different demi-human races, right? But he was bound by the fact that, like, the monster manual was saying, well, elves are chaotic good. So if you look at the elven pantheon, at least the original Roger Moore pantheon, which is smaller than the Carl Sargent monster mythology pantheon,
Right.
almost everybody was as a chaotic good god, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, but I have a chaotic evil elf, and I don't necessarily want him or her to worship a human god. So who do they worship?
Yes.
Right? And so that's when you can start coming up with either heretical gods or heretical pantheon. So, like, the first thing that comes to mind if you have an evil elk cleric is like, well, why don't they worship Zugtmoy, right? Whether I tend to blur the line between demon lords and gods and everything.
Very cool.
But other people like to keep it really strict, which is also fine. But either way, if your cleric thinks they're worshiping a god of, like, and you look at Zugtmoy and you don't necessarily look at her like she was portrayed in T1 through 4, you might do something like say, well, let me put her in a positive light. She's about rot and renewal, right? She's about breaking down the old so something new can come along. And you can start building yourself up this, consistent, ethical, way to play the character. Sure, they're chaotic evil. Yes, they're worshiping a demon lord, but ignore that. It's an important part of life, and you could see how they could actually get some worshipers, walking around, sneaking around, telling people, look, if we didn't have the rot part, we would never have new growth. You need to, we need this, right? And you can do the same thing for dwarves, right? You could focus in on the flame, the cleansing flame, or, there's all, you could do something like, that for gnomes or halflings. Like, if you really want that evil cleric for those other races, you can start building up these heresies from, where you misjudge a god's teachings, or you worship a demon lord, or whatever it is that gets you to the point where you can play that rich, diverse character.
So getting off on that, I have a separate book just for the NPC specialty priests, right? The ones that they're not touching. Which, well, maybe in that case, but
well, I have one that's an evil god in there. I have Varun.
But he's
one of my 10.
He's more dark elven.
Yeah. Well, the reason why,
reason why
that one was created is because At one point, I had a party. I had a group of people that were uh, basically a group of Drow,
It's
Durgar, and
cool.
half-orcs, and
Mhm.
they were an
Good luck.
Underdark party based out of my original city of Kor, which is on the website, which is a free city in the Underdark. And they were based out of that. And we started the campaign, ran about a year, and unfortunately it was composed mostly of grad students, and then they all graduated and went off in different directions, and that was the end of that campaign. But uh, but I needed a god that, or specialty priest of that they could use. So it was originally an evil to neutral party, and that ran it. That's why that exists. That's why that
Would you
particular
allow a
game.
chaotic neutral or true neutral dark elf to worship Veyron?
Yeah, I suppose it would depend on how they play it. But see, the thing is though, so there's the argument is a priest should more directly be attuned to what the god is. If the god's an evil god, the priest should be. If you're just a follower, then it doesn't have to be so precise.
Right. Not especially a priest, but a follower, it's okay.
Yeah, follower, it's okay. Priest,
you want to go the neutral evil
you'd
route here.
want, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So like in Fates and Avatars, as an example, if you look through most of them, there's a worshiper alignment, and there's usually like 4 or 5 alignments.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
there's a specialty priest alignment, and it might be 1, it might be 2, but it's a much smaller set.
Yes.
It should really get into the core piece. But you could have a chaotic evil god that also had chaotic neutral if they're really about chaos, right?
One segment away would be okay, I suppose.
I think, for example, Eric Mona's character, Venarian Board, plays is a Ralasiage priest, and he's chaotic neutral. But I think they can have chaotic neutral or chaotic evil. I think both real fit that specialty priest, just depending on your outlook on.
I guess would by definition have a bit more freedom when you've got chaotic as part of the mix.
This is great,
but like Ouijas is another one, right?
Yeah, lawful neutral, evil.
You could play her both ways, and
let's go to that one.
Necromantic.
Yes.
Well, and Ouijas is an interesting god where you could have sub priests, because Ouijas is the god of undeath, but also the god of magic, and they're two not disparate, but unique areas. And you certainly could have a branch of the priesthood that was more one than the other. I could see that easily happening. And Ouijas is not the only god that has that kind of mix of spheres.
One of my favorite accomplishments is the especially priest of Ouija. So this one, I think Ouija you can find in Greyhawk Adventures and From the Ashes. Ouija is one of those Sewell ones that Leonard Kafka wrote that kind of made it into the base deity following. Why? Even Len doesn't know to this day why. Before he passed, Len always said, "I don't know how they took some, but not the other ones." So that was a cool thing. I will get Stefan and Shane. I will get your VIPs at the end of the night there. So how does the placating of evil gods come in, especially priest for Greyhawk? I don't understand that question there, Mac. You're going to have to explain that to me a little bit more about the placating of evil gods. So Ouija, lawful neutral, lawful evil as the alignments for my specialty priests. So this is a really cool mix here. +1 saves magic, 5th level, and it says right in there they get limited necromancer ability. They get to use necromancer spells from. I have my own necromancer class of 1st and 2nd level, and they get to use 3rd and 4th level necromancer spells at 8th, and they go into their spell book and they can supplement their prayer spells with those necromancer spells like spectral hand, whatever you can think of, vampiric touch, all those great spells. They fit into this.
You borrow any of the stuff from Len's Deathmaster article?
A little bit, but most of my necromancer comes from that. second edition Necromancer spells and a lot of third edition spells and extras that had to be put in because there weren't enough to create a list. So I'd be more than happy to share that with you. So let me get off of this and let me go to the spell list. This spell list is humongous because they have spheres. They have spears for everything. Their spheres are huge. So if we go to this, it's not popping over. It should automatically pop over to that other screen. I got to port it over here. Of course, you can see a lot. Look at the size of these spell lists. It's crazy, and I've added in all these other ones. So we got first, second, third, and I can't even fit the 7th level on the first page. I mean, it's huge. It is huge how big the Ouija
That's
spell
not
is.
fair. You're going to have jealousy between the other.
It is, but they get the spheres that have a lot of these spells already in them,
Right.
and remember, if you have a lesser sphere, right, Eric, you only get up to 3rd levels of the spells, and the graders is 4th and higher, as you can see, but they still got 29 and 30 some levels of spells. Yeah, it's of 4th level spells. They got a lot. I think this is one of the biggest ones. The way it worked out on the spells.
3rd, you got up to 46. Wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and that doesn't even count all these ones I added. It's over 50.
Oh.
It's over 50. And that it doesn't even count the Necromancer spells, but that's how the spheres work. And that's something you got to be careful about. You got to check. You got to try and balance them out. So, so Eric, how did you come up with the spheres? I want to know this. Wait a minute. Apparently, some of the worst of evil deeds is placating them so they don't punish locals, which would be different.
I can answer the placating question.
Please do. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple different ways to think of like a priest of a god of disease, right? So
I know what Big Mac's getting at. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So let's say you're a cleric of the god of disease, right? You could be that the way you play that cleric is, I love disease, I want to get the whole world sick, and I want everybody to die, right? Truly kind of your true evil kind of priest, right? You're not placating the god, you're embracing it and you're doing it whole hog, right? I mean, that's one way to play it. And that when you're doing that for Heronius, it doesn't seem that so bad, but it does seem pretty bad when you're doing that from a god of disease or something like that.
Good point.
But there's another way to play it too, which is like, you know what? If this god exists, they are a force of nature, right? Disease is out there. And, I'm all that stands between you and the plague. So here are the things that you need to do. I need all the villagers once a week to donate this much money to me.
Keep me happy or you're getting diseased.
So to me, that's the other way to play it. And
it's
for those
Joe versus the volcano kind of thing.
And so you could have it as you could have it as 2 different specialty priest class hoods if you felt like you needed it, or you can play it with the same one. It's just a very different, don't make me cast this spell. You don't want to see it. You know what I mean? So you can play it both ways depending on how evil you want to play it,
Oh yeah, like Big Mac just said, it's supposed to be like a priest with a protection racket.
Yeah, kind of.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's good.
Here are the you can't play specialty priests in my campaign. One of them is not of, but one of them's of the Deities and Demigods book. But I'll explain. Earth Dragon. The Earth Dragon's in the Slavers. Okay, so that one's already written up for you. All you gotta do is create the spell list. Erythnal. Really chaotic evil, right? Ayus. Narol. This one I just don't want to go there with a player character. Wastri. even though they'd be lawful neutral, right? But I just don't want to go there with that.
I think that would be a fun one to try.
Well, there's the Priest of Wastri on the City of Greyhawk card, right?
Right. Yep. The hopping prophet.
Yep. Yes. That I've ran that. That was a fun little thing. But yeah, I don't know.
Time for the hopping prophet.
Priest of Wastri. You know what? I could see Eric Mona playing a Priest of Wastri.
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to give you all a little hint here. Horror in the Hools. You can get your wish if you get that adventure that Carlos and I wrote in Horror in the Hools. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Names have been changed to protect the innocent. That's all I'll say there. So, all right.
You have specialty priests of Therisden in there?
No, I do not. I have not. Do not. But the one I have that I use a lot of is Leviathan. Now, I had finished gods in my game before we had Greyhawk deities because it was, that's all we had was the deities and demigods. I love the Maiden of Pain. Now, she's a regular deity in Forgotten Realms, correct, Eric?
Yep.
There you go.
So like, if you if you look in Dragon
Take your time.
54,
Okay.
there's an article by Ed Greenwood called Down to Earth Divinity. And he took what was available at the time, which was like deities and demigods, right? And he was kind of walking through how you could build a campaign for your own campaign world by mixing and matching. And so the Realms actually has a fair number of deities out of that book, mixed and matched from different campaigns. There's Myliki, there's
Ilmater.
Loviatar,
Yeah.
there's Ilmatar, there's
Hell?
here.
Hecate? No, I don't know.
No. So some of them he would take them like and modify them. So like in the Realms, it's Maestra, right?
Oh, okay. So Myliki.
Yeah, but no, Myliki's in there as the goddess of rangers.
Okay.
Right. But Myliki is frankly really, really close to Elona in terms of how you would stat them up. So, you know, you were saying you can steal from other books. You know, I would steal the specialty priest of Myliki as your specialty priest of Elona. It would work perfectly.
Okay.
Others, there's not a good fit. Like Weejas, there's no good fit in the Realms.
See, I crossed over and I stole Helm spells from Mayheen.
Mm-hmm. That one works quite well.
Yeah. So and added them in. But stealing's okay, everyone. It's not really stealing. The publication's there. Utilize what you have.
Borrow. It's
borrow. Yeah, borrow. Right. So
we give it back.
Yeah, I know. I know Drizzip worships Myliki in some books. It's okay. Yeah, I got that. Sure. I know you have a yeah, but it's all right.
So, question for you, Jay, is you've created 43 or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially, how many players have you actually had to use all of those?
Every single one,
except
for the non-PC one. So let me throw them up real quick, and then we'll get to this. So I'm a couple of them. Like I'm working in progress. Brando Barris I'm working on, and all right. So here's my list. Out of Therinals, you know, as a god of drow hunting came in the Dragon magazine. We loved it because there wasn't really an elven deity for that. There's an extra deity elves, and that's where we got that one from. But notice a lot of these are normal names, and you see Alana, that little tilde means they can be druids or clerics because I have specialty druids as well. Elistra, okay, you need a good.
I use Obed High along with Alana for that. Yeah.
For the old faith, absolutely perfect. But Jormy, Kellenan, all these, there's at least one specialty priest for every single one of these of a player character. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And you've had that many player characters over the years. Wow.
Roughly 2,000 PCs
Holy
and NPCs.
Smokes.
Combined, it's 41. Page 2. Yeah, I know. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Let me do page 2 here real quick. I mean, I don't know where the time's gone. Most of my guys in their book, Alan, Bill, have 60 to 70 player characters that are active.
Wow.
Here, Leviator, Mayheen, Morden, Merland, Palor, Falcon, Foltis, Ralshaz, Red Knight. There's one I stole from. I love Red Knight. Whoever made Red Knight up, Eric, if you did it, kudos. I love that deity. So there was no lawful good neutral guide of planning there because you had Heronius and Hexter, but you didn't have that battle guide of planning in the middle anywhere, and that's so we brought Red Knight.
So if my recollection is correct, Red Knight had a short paragraph in the second edition Forgotten Realms campaign setting, and then I took that like 3 sentences and turned it into what you saw in Powers and Pantheons. But there was nothing else besides that.
Okay. Well, that we love the Red Knight, and we have. In fact, you're going to see a character played on Thursday night. Victor Von Nieder, Bill's 9th level priest of the Red Knight.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Ralashaz, there's Eric Mona. Sharis, another one I stole. My one player, Wald, who's on Colpy, he likes doing a little crazy stuff, and Sharis is like the nuts of, debauchery, right? So there you go.
Jeez, I'm not even familiar with Sharis.
Yeah, Zandalar's the elven version is Sharis, if I recall correctly. So we have Zandalar / Sharis in there.
Actually, there's 3 gods there. There's Sharis includes Zandalar the Dancer, but she also who's an elven goddess, but she also includes Bast from the Egyptian pantheon.
Oh, cool! Did not know that.
So a lot of people think of her as the fest hall goddess, Sharis, and the spells in it are a little inappropriate, but it's a fun specialty priest to play for people, and it's a different way of taking things. And there's also this does she have kind of this dark aspect to her, or more of a, sunshine and roses kind of aspect? You can play her either way.
Very cool. I did not know that. So Bast, Zandalar, Sharis. Awesome.
Yep.
What was Bast had a little was more magic based? Is that the difference?
And also had more of a feline aspect to
Okay.
her as well. Yeah, so some of that write-up came from the fact I was trying to merge some different little snippets here and there in the realms, and I was seeing some overlaps and running. Sometimes I would merge deities together because the page count was limited. Even though you think I wrote in a micro font, I didn't break every deity up into every possible part. Sometimes I'd bring them together. And so Shares was my combination of Bast, the original Shares, and Zandalar the Dancer.
Okay, well that's good to know. So, but because once again, I think we have two, one Sharis, one Zandalar, and that they were kind of merged together. So I don't have to make up a whole separate Zandalar one. Yeah, seriously, because making them up, it can get tedious, definitely. So Saint Benedor is one of the newest ones. That is Gary Julian's hunter for Death Knights, right? So Saint Benedor was just recently made up, and Gary made up the deity and put Saint Benedor's ascension to demigod status in Earth Journal, and I at the same time worked with him and created up the specialty priestess Saint Benedor. And if you watch Kayla, Time Lord's wife, Tegan Rothschild is an 8th level specialty priest to Saint Benedor, and she just played on Thursday night in a special game. So we do have one actively going. Stormlord Talos. I just didn't. I wasn't big on Telcher, and I love that Talos was already written up and is really. I love Talos in Baldur's Gate 2, going into that temple. And I remembered how loud it was in there, and I'm like, this is a cool deity. So we just changed the name to the Stormlord. So that's a good one there as well. Do you know who wrote that one up, Eric?
I wrote up a good chunk of that one.
Beautiful.
Back in Faiths and Avatars.
Awesome. Love that one too. So we pulled Stormlord in. Tritherian Uko, Finnish deity, one of our main deities going back to 1980. So I can't remove Uko. Ula, Wastri, Ouija, Zerbo, Zilchis. They're the ones all made up. And you notice I have to add Brenda Barris to this list. I'm working on that now. But I have Merlin, Kellenin, all the ones from other publications. So that's my list. So how did you decide on both of you decide on the spheres? Like, did you have to categorize them all, Eric, or did someone do that for you? Because I know the list is very extensive here in the back of the player's option book, 2nd edition.
So what I would do for every single one of them is I would go through the whole list and say, if I was, remember I said to start, you start with the idea, I want to play this character and I want it to be cool, right? And so the thing I would do is I would go through all the spheres and say, if I'm really getting into role playing a cleric of Zilchis, what do I want to be able to do? Does this make sense? Does this make sense? And if it didn't make sense, I'd leave it off. And if it did make sense, I'd leave it on. So you kind of do that maximum thing where you go through and you find the maximum set of spheres that really match up, and then you go through and you say, well, am I going to allow multi-classing? And you go through and you say, I'm going to allow any other races, and you go through and you say, what are like the signature abilities? Every couple levels, I want to be able to do that thing that makes everybody go, oh, he's a priest of Foltis. That makes sense.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean? And then then you got to step back once you kind of thrown everything into your wish list and say, is this too much? Right. And particularly if sometimes you would say, well, I'm missing something, right? Like I can't find that perfect spell to be the blinding light. So I better make a spell that does, that both does damage and, takes your vision out or whatever it is, right? So there might be some missing spells that like when you look at the guy, the god, you say, I've got to have that ability. But then once you've got it all balanced or all done, you step back and you go, did I give it too many spheres? Did I give it too many weird spells? Did I give it too many abilities? Did I, is allowing too many races and multi-classing and what weapons did I let them have and what armor did I let them have? And you kind of have to step back and say, all right, I think I've described what my perfect character is for this priest of Telcher, but what can I do about it? What do I have to take out?
So here's two spells for Foltest as an example that you rip off from Forgotten Realms that Eric probably wrote. Sunrise and False Starring out of Lathander. Okay, these spells are awesome, and anyone with a light sphere major, sun sphere major, will get these. Well, actually a minor because Sunrise is third. So fantastic spells. I think they were in what was the game Icewind Dale 2. I think they were both in Icewind Dale 2, and that's where I first saw these. But they're fantastic spells, and just look at they do massive damage against undead. And when I saw these in that book, I'm like, these are Foltest spells. I need them because there was a gap, and that's exactly what Eric just said. Is that there's ways that you could go through these books that Eric has made and find these spells and pull them back into Greyhawk, and that's what I did with those two spells as a perfect example. So a great point. Now let's just go through the spheres that you made, and I'm assuming these are all you. So we have all, which is generic. And Dennis, please tell me if there any of these stand out to you, like that you were like, I wasn't sure, or that was cool that it was added, please. Astral, Chaos, Charm, Combat, Creation, Divination. Then you have the 4 elements, right, to create. And now let me go back here.
There are some spells, of course, that span multiple spheres.
Absolutely, and there's some that are druidic that you don't want to give clerical. Right in here that you have to back out. That's what I did here. All the elements: Guardian, Healing, Law, which is one of the newer ones. Necromantic, Numbers, which was brand spanking new at the time. Plant, probably more druidical. Protection, Summoning, Sun, Thought, all brand new. Time, all brand new. Travelers, War, Wards, Weather. They're all the ones that I know of. Am I missing any there? And notice most of these are in the Tome of Magic or the Player's Option book.
Yeah, they're almost all in Tome of Magic, certainly.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any in Player's Option that weren't.
They're underlined. So, for example, like Unfailing Premonition, there's a couple. There's a couple in here. Yeah.
So the one thing I might push back on a little bit is the Druid bit.
Okay.
Right. So there are a few gods where you don't necessarily. Biori or Farlahan, where you don't necessarily want them to be that straight druid, but you don't want them to be not a druid at all, right? And so for me, there's a few of them where you can do a little bit. You have to think about it pretty carefully so you're not spoiling the druid.
I agree 100%. And an example I have is that I forget which one. If it was Sol Northalandera, my elf has Call Lightning, because that fit in the spheres of that worked, and that's a druid spell all the way, and that's a devastating druid spell. Or Fairy Fire, another druid spell that some clerics, priests are going to get because of where it is in the spheres. Yeah, that happens absolutely. It's really cool. So was it? Did you decide there weren't enough spheres, and that's why we got a lot of these extra spheres? Or were these spells that were put into Tome of Magic and they didn't have?
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with Tome of Magic.
Okay.
So they created the spheres. What I was trying to do was in general, when you're writing for Greyhawk or you're writing for the Realms or whatever it might be, you're trying to take the generic material that TSR or WotC is coming out with and make it fit for the game setting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You can look at Eberron and what Keith Baker did there. Right? He took the generic stuff and he twisted it and shaped it and made it into a setting that gave you a feel, right? So you really don't want to take away from the feel of the setting. You use the tools to get there.
And Gitano just asked, has any thought been given to a specialty priest of a pantheon rather than an individual god? Or has there always been or has there only been in pantheon in a setting? For example, Greyhawk has demi-human gods, Iridian gods, Thule gods.
So you could do a pantheon god. I think the question would be, why is the pantheon so similar, right? So if there were 3 hag goddesses, right, and you had your evil NPC cleric of the 3 hag goddesses, you might be specialty priest of a pantheon, right? But if I don't think you want a specialty priest of the Sul pantheon or of the Auridian pantheon. That doesn't really seem that. I mean, because they're all over the place, right? Those pantheons are all over.
Yeah, there kind of is something like that. And here with Big Mac still here, he can chime in a bit on it. The Pass in the Way is a kind of, it is. It's a polytheistic spelljammer temple, which you could theoretically have a character in that.
Oh, cool.
And be kind of worshiping, a large number of gods theoretically. But that was kind of unique to Spelljammer. I don't think there's been a priesthood or a church or temple quite like the Pass in the Way. I think it's called the Pass in the Way.
Yeah,
right?
I think you're right. Yeah.
I know.
So if in Greyhawk, so here's something I might do, right? Like if I was rewriting T1 to 4 a little bit, right? And I looked at the intersection of Lolth and Zugtamoy and Tharisdan, Elder Elemental, you might come up with a faith, right? And the faith has a specialty priest, and there might be multiple powers contributing to that faith.
Okay.
But in some sense, you're not really worshiping a pantheon. You're worshiping a combined faith, which is because the whole point is basically like you ought to be able to say with your specialty priest, okay, I know what dogma I believe. I know what the holy days are. I know what I should wear. I know how to go out in the world and proselytize. If you can do that, then a specialty priest makes a lot of sense. And so, yes, you could have multiple gods contributing to a single faith, but I don't think you'd want a specialty priest of like, well, I'm going to do a specialty priest of Ayuz and Arithmel because they're both evil. Right?
Right, yeah, that makes no sense. Yeah, but like as Anna says, she has an Elven pantheon, which kind of makes sense in her Shieldlands game. That's it's a good point there. Hey, Stella. It's man, this discussion's so awesome. Oh man, I know that when this first came out, and I saw the opportunity to really flavorize Greyhawk. I said to myself, instead of adding one class of specialty priests and then everyone having its own list, we give it its uniqueness and make it each one you'll get a little bit of a difference to it, and that is what's so good. There's no two spell lists that are alike. There's no two ability lists that are alike. There's spells that you'll only ever see Miracle or Shield of Hieronymus in a Hieronymus priest. You only see Battle Arms in a Hexter priest. You only see Stalk in an Olana priest. You're never going to see them anywhere else, and that's what's so cool about it, is that there's such a uniqueness to it. And I don't think it was intentional, but if you take the original, you take this Greyhawk Adventures, you take the adventure cards and From the Ashes in the back that have the spells on them. There's 2 card lists with all the deities. There's Ayu's spells and even Bakab's spells on there. And then you take some other sources, so maybe some of the publications that Eric's done in Polyhedron or some of the Dragon magazine articles. You can find enough unique spells to it only has to be 2 or 3 spells on that list. It doesn't have to be 20 that are unique to them, and then you'll get a flavor to your deities, which is cool. And there's more than enough right here to get you started with Hieronymus. I mean, you got like 7 or 8 at least in this one, and I think 3 of Hexter in that book, which makes it so awesome. And that gives it. And I know I'm assuming that's Eric what you were going for with Forgotten Realms, because that book is so. I would this is what we kill for, is to have that book in Greyhawk. That would have been such a home run back then.
So yeah, I mean, one of the things I always like to do is I always like to look at it, particularly if there was a picture of the god, right? So for the Greyhawk deities back in Dragon 67 and some of the other ones, there were pictures of the gods, right? You saw that picture of Fultus, you saw the picture of Tritherion, you saw Hieronymus, you saw Hexter. Imagine that picture is your character, right?
Cool.
What do you want to be able to
With
do?
all those arms?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I had the battle arms spell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
so whatever that picture looked like, honestly, I always thought of it as like, because I loved those pictures. The art
Yeah.
is great, and so I would look at that picture and go, let's pretend that's not a picture of the deity. Let's pretend that's a picture of my player character. Now, how am I going to make that possible? That's how I would write that specialty priest up. And even Wastri, right? I mean, like, we're kind of making fun of that a little bit, but just to go through it, right? So let's say you want to make a specialty priest of Wastri, right? First you go find out, is there any spells that have been associated with Wastri before, right? And then you go, let's look at that picture and go, all right, well, I want him to be like the king of the jumpers, right? And so if there's not a good enough jump spell, you want something that allows you to hop from way outside the combat, like hop in and hop back out. Now you're starting to get your hook a little bit, right? You probably want something, he's not the most attractive kind of fellow. And so if you're not the most attractive kind of fellow, you go one of two ways. You either say, I need illusion magic to make myself look better, or you say, I want everybody as ugly as me, so I want to be able to cast warts on everybody, or whatever it is you want to do.
Oh
right?
my gosh, Eric, are you reading my mind? Are you ready? I created this spell, Wastri's Blessing. By the way, this is in Hornholes, 3rd level. This spell will bring divine blessing of Wastri upon a target individual if they fail saving throw versus spells. The person will have large knobby warts grow all over his body, causing extreme pain. Oh my gosh!
Exactly.
Oh my gosh! That is
But
yes.
But you ought to be able to look for any of these gods. You ought to be able to look at them and say,
That's awesome.
What would I want to do if I was going to be that character?
Some of the extra abilities that were added, going way back to the Dragon magazine, was one of the cheap ways was to add a couple of wizard spells to the priest.
Absolutely.
And so I can see Wastri as having a renamed version of Spider Climb, except it's like Gecko Walk or something like that.
Exactly.
Great point.
Tree Frog Walk, or
So there is a Wastri the Hopping Prophet specialty priest done in Earth Journal 8 by Russell S. Tim. I don't know who that is, but in Earth Journal 8 it is in there, and I just modified that and made some changes to it. And they're called Bactrax, the specialty priests. Batrax.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So there you go, and it's in here in Earth Journal 8. So
yes,
yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Thank you, Gaetano. It's definitely sacred text. So great, man, Eric. That was uncanny that you said that. I was like, I created a spell. So how about this? Pick one of your favorites, Dennis. One of your favorite priests that you have. We'll all round table.
I tend to steer players towards certain priests because they fit with kind of some of the hidden or not so hidden directions of my campaign threads. So the other thing is that I've had a lot of my main players have had characters that have run for a very long time. So rather than them having a whole ton of PCs like you have and giving you reason to create tons of different specialty priests, they've had relatively few characters over the decades. Like some of them have been going for 3 or 4 decades, the same PC. So I've not had to create a whole lot of new specialty priests, but Celestian has always been a favorite of mine, even before Spelljammer. But then once our campaign added a major spelljamming part,
Big Mac loves this.
then Celestian becomes a very important god in wild space, beyond one of the few Greyhawk gods that has spanned the spheres, so to speak. And so there are some specialized spelljamming spells that Celestian. So the version that I have up here is a wild space version of Celestian, because that's one of our most recent characters that we've been playing a lot lately this year, is a priest of Celestian, and he's the spelljammer on the ship, right?
So you got the
So
Meteors of Celestian spell in here. I see from Greyhawk Adventures. That's
yep,
great. You have
yep, that
Dimension
one's in
Door,
there.
Dimension Door Wizard Fourth in here. And they get that at 11th. It says spell functions is through caster one level higher while in Wild Space. That's very
Yep.
cool. And you got Spider
And
Climb in
all
here.
of that
Yeah,
comes right out of
teleport.
the existing rule books. Those are things that I didn't make up. I
That's
borrowed,
awesome.
as you stole, borrowed.
Yeah,
They came
beautiful.
out of I think the Spacefarer's Handbook and something else. But there's a bunch of Celestian information that's sprawled out over Spelljammer product because he's become such an important god in wild space. So Celestian I use a lot.
That's awesome.
I often talk them into being priests of Bokob because of the thread that's kind of tying most of my campaign through.
Here we go.
But the priests of Bokob often, they sometimes get frustrated because, well, it's one of the gods that can't turn undead, right?
Yeah, well, that's true neutral.
So they're same with Celestian, I think. I don't think they can turn either.
Yeah.
And so any undead that they find, the priest is not going to be any help other than combat help.
Good question, George.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. But those are two of my favorites because of that. I have one of my recent players as well chose to be Farland. And so one of the abilities of Farland is he can run naturally 25% faster.
Yep.
Movement rate is 25%. So he's used that actually to great effect to set him apart from the rest. He's the runner of the party whenever they need something done fast or scouting ahead where he needs to come back quickly. We'll send him out because he's the speediest of the gang, right? So they've been having fun with Farland lately. But yeah, I have to say Celestian is probably my favorite out of the bunch.
Well, you've done a great job with all these, and I noticed that Farlane's got all the similar abilities in there, the movement and the Dimension Door. So both of you, please help George Lexfire answer this question because it's kind of I'm not sure how to articulate this. What determines the delay in turn ability for some specialty priests or some that don't get it at all? For like -4 per, level -4, level -2. Now I know Paylord's like level +1, but that's a rarity. So what would be based on?
So I would throw that in with the rest of the things, right? So I mean, we kind of said this before. There's armor, there's weapons, there's major spheres, there's minor spheres, there's whether you get to multi-class, there's how powerful the abilities are, and there's how good the special spells are, right? So that's like 7 things. And so turn undead is kind of an 8th thing, right? And so you want to kind of keep it all balanced and think through the class. So if it's not like, Wastri is not someone I would think of as, out there battling undead, right? So that would be the kind of place where I would maybe nerf the turning undead a little bit to allow Priest of Wastri to get, super jumping, right? Or whatever I decided the thing needed to be. And so you just think of it as a toolbox where you can turn some dials down, you can turn some dials up, but overall it has to feel like this is not, my personal character. This is a character I could also have in a campaign. It wouldn't feel unbalancing, right? Because that's
like
the two hats you put.
Celestian and Farlahan forego undead for a lot of traveling related stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with Baka magic for Baka.
And Bokob and magic, that's not undead related at all. If you have priests or gods that deal with healing, that's more of a body and health, and then undead comes into that, I think.
Also protection. If your priest is protecting the community against the undead that might be plaguing the community, absolutely they should have it at least as a cleric, if not more.
Yeah.
For example, Saint Benedor here, even though Death Knight Hunter, turn at normal level for the ability here. And that makes total sense for what they do. And there's their other special abilities, that we got we put in. They actually reduced the resistance of Death Knight's magic resistance, which is it's like 90% or something crazy, right? With Death Knights, it's something sickening. So yeah, so George, that makes sense, right? Total sense from the process, and you have to pick and choose which where it makes sense. So if I bring up Bakab here, my Bakab, it's going to be turn undead nil. There it is,
Right.
nil. There ain't turning undead.
Yep.
And so, but they do get this limited sage ability, which is kind of cool. So they do get something else. Hey, Sean, thanks, man. 2 years. Wow, that's crazy. 2-year subscriber. Thank you so very much. Yeah, so that's another thing that's neat. Some of them will get some other abilities beyond the class, and that's the one. They get that limited sage ability, which is cool. So
yeah, well, Bokab is all about knowledge and magic, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely. So, hey, what's up, Mike? Mike Disney? Good to see you. Oh, thanks for doing that. Thank you. Canadian gave Eric a nice gift sub there. Thank you so very much, Patrick. So, do you have one? It can be Forgotten Realms. I have all the books here, Eric. Pick one that you really love that you did.
Well, I know it's a tough one.
I know we're going back in time.
So I'll start with the statement that I've always loved Rangers and Wizards.
Okay.
And so, the first thing I would probably pick in Greyhawk would be like Elona.
Okay.
Or one of the. Let me come back to which of the magic gods in a second.
Okay.
And then if I was in the realms, I would look at like Myliki or Shandakal. Shandakal is kind of an interesting god of the North Wind, travelers, explorers. I always love kind of that explorer motif. So Shandakal is probably one of my favorites. That he was a really minor god, only mentioned in Ruins of Mithranor.
Is that CH or SU? SH.
SHAU.
Because I'm like, what? Okay.
And he would be a great fit for Greyhawk as well, I think. But so I really liked him a lot. One of my characters played him when I was in grad school. One of the guys in my campaign played him, so that write-up is straight out of my campaign, actually. So
142.
Those are some of the fun ones.
I've never read Shandakal at all. This is new to me, so
yeah,
very cool. The Rider of the Winds, the Helping Hand, chaotic neutral. Huh.
He is, but he's a little bit more chaotic good. He's on that continuum. He's probably a little bit analogous to Tritherion a little bit, crossed with Farlahan. But what I would say is, as I've kind of gotten older into this, what I now gravitate towards are the ones with really good role-playing hooks. So these specialty priests don't exist yet. But like if I was looking at a list of Greyhawk gods, the ones that kind of jump out at me are things like Jerami, right?
Yep.
Good and Volcanoes.
Yeah, we got one. It's awesome.
I can really how do you play that, right? That's kind of a weird combination. You're erupting, your personality is volcanic. You could do a lot from a role-playing standpoint.
7th level spell lava.
There you go.
They get the para. I have a para elementalist. They get the lava spells from the para elementalist at a certain time in there. And my friend Alan's got one. She's kind of a pain. Yeah, it's one of the new ones. And I'm not talking about new. I'm about like 5-6 years old. Jeremy, I did that. They also get a mesmerization ability, if I recall correctly, with their eyes. Something that Jeremy does as well. Here, let me just pull it up. Duh. So yeah, that's a great.
So those are the kind that I gravitate towards, right? Or Braum. Braum would be interesting to me because but also really make him about vermin, right? So his spells are about like sending a stream of ants, but he also can send a stream of ants to like move stuff for you, to carry stuff, right? I mean, you could do all sorts of weird kind of
sure,
stuff like that. Nice.
No, it's good.
But then you look through some of the other ones and there's, some of them. So going back to magic, right? Like Procan, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with Procan. I wrote Procan up, I'm sure, but almost every campaign has a god of the sea. In fact, Greyhawk has multiple gods of the sea, right?
Procan,
I don't necessarily find those that unique or interesting, whereas, Braum or Wastri are really kind of interesting. But like if you get to gods of magic, Bokob's the obvious one to play, But honestly, I think like Zagig or Weejas are much more interesting because they've got that twist to them, and then you take that twist and you role play the heck out of it.
The downside of something like someone like Zagig, though, is as a lesser god, you don't have the high level spell access, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the downside.
There are downsides, and for some, if I was
Yeah,
doing a
you get
specialty
some.
priest for
You're limited.
Zagig, I would probably allow multi-class with wizard, right? I mean,
That would make sense.
That's how you get it. So somebody was asking earlier when, what do you do with turn undead, etc. That's when you start saying, well, if I was going to play Zagig and it's limited, so how am I going to play it? Well, I probably want some wizard levels, and if I'm going to give them wizard spells and cleric spells, then I got to dial them down in some other space.
Yeah.
And that's
and
how
it's
you
going to
end
vary
up with
from the flavor of your campaign as well. I mean, I've never really done anything with any of the many you mentioned sea gods and Greyhawk because I've never really run a sea campaign, but there are DMs out there certainly who focused on sea campaigns, and in which case then it makes sense to go with specialty priests for those gods for sure.
Because you have Osprey, Procan, and Zerbo.
Yeah.
Len loved the sea deities. All three are Len Soul deities. So
going back to that earlier question about a pantheon, right?
Yep.
If you've got multiple sea deities within a single ethnic group like Sul, then that's when I might possibly think about saying maybe there's a combined, Reaver of the Seas who worships all three. Right? That would be the kind of place where I would do it.
Yeah, all the sea deities for a landlocked nation.
That part never made a lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. I always figured that there maybe were like two eras to the Sul culture, where there was a landlocked era and there was a diaspora era, and that what we're seeing now is the diaspora pantheon.
Well, the barbarian Sul could theoretically certainly have
I have them. I have
deities,
the frost and ice. Yeah, they're seaworthy, right?
But yeah, I wonder, like, did they grow? Do they kind of grow up post cataclysm
migration? Yeah, because well, I have a complicated history for the Sul in my campaign, which is totally not canon. But my Sul originated actually from Cool, the Selene, the moon, before its atmosphere was stripped, using my codex history. So they brought their gods with them, but back then they did have ports, but all of that is gone now as of 5,000 years ago or whatever.
Very interesting.
Was,
See, that's a great thing about Denis, your campaign. It's so unique, and you guys have to delve in. I've given you the link only to the specialty priest, but Denis, please feel free to put the main link in, because I overrode the old one and put the new one in for tonight. So there's a specialty priest page I'm on now, but
well, just melcott.com if you go there.
Yeah, and you can go through all...
if you go to the sitemap page, you can see an overview of the entire. Here, let me paste that in here.
Very
so
cool.
There's a question
about
it
there's
says
a sitemap.
About joking.
Would Denis and I have different sea gods for the surface versus the underdeep versus the sea monsters?
Ooh.
And I would say absolutely. To me, those are two very different things.
Yeah.
The abyssal depths are very Cthulhuistic. Dagon, there's a brilliant write-up James Jacobs did in Dragon. There's you can have all sorts of really, you could say Blibdopulp is part of that deep sea.
Yep. Absolutely.
Pantheon. There's all sorts of really like twisted, like bulging-eyed, kind of tentacled deep sea gods that have nothing to do with the brave seafarers going across the water.
Isn't there? Is it exacto on the Locatha one in deities and demigods? There's a couple of
the Locatha have a weird. They weirdly share a deity.
Lagazid or whatever, is that one?
No, that's troglodyte.
That's troglodytes. Okay.
They share with they share Iadro with the merfolk.
That's it. Okay. All right.
And there's got to be a story about why they share a god there, which to me is something like one of the two gods died.
Oh, okay.
right? You know, and there's some racial history where one of the two deities died sacrificing the other race. And so that's how the two came up with a common god. To me, that's the only way that makes sense. Or maybe the merfolk, like maybe the Lakatha originally worshipped some of those abyssal depth kind of gods, and the merfolk converted them, you know, to more of a surface worship, surface god kind of worship, and at the same time they moved into the shallows. You know, you could come up with all sorts of stories for your campaign.
Sure.
Very cool. Another question, Canadian asked for gods of mischief in Greyhawk. Well, there's many. I mean, Roush is bad luck. Brandon Barris is halfling, so there you go for your halfling one. Erevan Elisir is god of mischief for elves, and I have that one specialty priest done up. Who is gnomes?
They're all
Maravan Wild Wanderer?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't have that one written up, but I do have Flandel Steelskin written up, believe it or not.
Well, Garl Glittergold is, frankly, even though he's the head of the pantheon, he's a trickster god.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I'm not a big fan of gnomes, as some people know. But I have tried to do them justice when I've written about them. But yeah, there's a lot of gnome gods that would be like that. It also depends on what kind of trickster do you mean. Do you mean like, you know, kind of fun and light practical joker, or do you mean like kind of cruel and twisted and trying to make people feel bad? Those are two very different deities. Like Curl could obviously be a trickster god, but you know, but that's more like jealousy, right? And you know, you can go all different ways. You know, Pyremius could be a trickster god as well.
Yeah.
Only it ends in murder.
Yeah, that's a bad trick. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, Saint Cargarth or Saint Bane worship them early and often. Well, you know, yes. So Gary's working on it. Sounds like something new after Benidorm. So there you go. So Gary is working on a new one, a new elevation of a deity. So that's great to see, Puffin Smedger. Some crossovers, especially for gnomes. Merlin can be a gnome because of technology. Also, Ula for mining. Ula is human, dwarven, and gnome, all three. You know, in the Greyhawk pantheon. So you do get some crossovers in some, not many, but that's the one that most sticks out to me is Ula for crossing over with multiple demi-human and human races there. So. Kellenin is also close. Well, Kellenin, we already have the special priest of Kellenin done, Gary. That's cool because Kellenin got elevated in the Slavers book. So if you go to this book, Slavers, and it's good to see you on, Gary. Slavers has Kellenin, Merlin, and Earth Dragon in it. So, you know, our two, Sean Reynolds and Chris Pramus did a good job in this book, giving you 3 more specialty priests that are pretty much done, that all you need to do is flesh out the spell list, and I did it for all 3 of them. So, they're all in our game. And Kellenin is a fun specialty priest to play. It's the only one that gets weapon specialization and gets multiple attacks. So they get 2 attacks per round at third. And we all know, I know Casey Brown's not on to defend himself. We all know the min-maxer that Casey is with his Garn character, his half-orc specialty priest of Kellenin that gets 2 attacks per round now with his weapon. So we all see that all the time. So,
so that would be an example of a picture you look at and you go, I want to play that character.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if you think of the original Kellenin, right up in the Hero Duty articles,
yep.
You look at that picture and you go, yeah, that's what I want to play.
Absolutely. I like, see, same thing for me. I love the Merlin picture, the Clint Eastwood picture too. So here, let me just throw these both up here real quick. They're scrolling through on the other page, but we're not getting to them here. So how can I not have Eastwood here? I know I have them. I'm being careful as to not crash the stream. There we go. Not tell me that's something here with no name.
Yeah.
And then where's Kellen in here?
Well, he's kind of a cross between Clint Eastwood and Gary Cooper.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of Gary Cooper in him.
Yeah, that's
from High Noon. No, not yeah.
Yeah,
High Noon. Yeah.
That's an excellent picture. So
Yeah,
and then here's the one that Eric's talking about, that great Kellenen picture there.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not want to play that specialty priest when you look
Absolutely.
at that?
That is a wonderful, wonderful pick, and the storyline behind how he becomes, what he does and all, and he's being being a true neutral. It's hard to play in that true neutral aspect, and sometimes they waver to that side of good. Hey, so be it, But a lot of duelists in my campaign revere the Sword Lord, and a lot of them are cat neutral aligned because all they're interested in is training, and
Right.
So I will say that I never actually did this, but if I was doing it again for the hero deities in particular, where I don't really think of them as really having real established churches very much.
Right.
I would be tempted, rather than starting with the cleric and making a specialty priest of the hero deity, I might take the character class that they are closest to, like for Kellenen, take a fighter, right? And then modify the fighter class and maybe give them one or two little hooks. Rather than starting with the cleric and making a specialty priest of them, I almost would be tempted to start with the character class that you identify most with that god, and then tweak it a little bit and make it unique. But you could do it either way. It's not to knock having a specialty priest of them, but it might be fun to try it that way, right? Let me play a fighter of Kellenen with a couple priesty abilities.
Interesting. Yeah, so Guy says they're still hero deities, but hey, there's different ways of doing it, and that would be another great way of setting up some of these. You don't have to do it the way that we're saying here, and that is, we didn't really discuss that. Let's discuss that real quick. What you need to do is you need to find a publication. Let's just use Greyhawk Adventures. It's the easiest one to do. All right, you go into Greyhawk Adventures, and you find. This sounds difficult, but it's not. It's time consuming. So you go to the deities here, and let's pick one that I don't have done. Well, here's a recent one, Ula. Okay, so Ula is a major deity. All right, there you go.
I've got my book out.
Ula is a major deity. So with Ula, right there, it has your spheres. Okay.
Yep.
And so the spheres for Ula are as follows: major spheres, combat, elemental, protection, healing, guardian; minor, divination. Okay, and then it has some spells that gets added as well. So what you do then is you take and I suggest getting this in download if you can't find it. This is the one I use, and you may be able to find your own. The Players and Option book, and you go into the back reference, and it has what do you use, Dennis, to get yours? To get all your
spheres?
Yeah, get all the spells by sphere listing.
I think Tome of Magic is the one that I mainly.
Okay, there you go. So I use Players Option, Spells and Magic, and Dennis uses Tome of Magic, and they have the list.
And the players, of course, right?
Right, and then you find all the spell lists, and you just make sure that. You go down each, say they have sphere of combat, and then you just, if it's a major sphere, they get all the spells, and you just start adding them in. And if they're minor, get up to third.
The way I built my sheets is I've got a master list of all of the spells and all of the spheres, and so then I just I make a copy of that document. I delete all of the spheres that are not there, and then sort by level.
Oh wow. So that's quick.
And you just use the sort function in Word, and it just boom, 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 boom. They're all there.
much more efficient than the tedious way I do it, where I cross out and I tend to go off of a list that's close of another deity that's close, and then I start crossing out and adding, and oh my gosh! So
just delete the spheres that they're not there, and then sort by alphabet or sort by number, and then after that sort by letter.
Ask and ye shall receive here, and I want to give Eric credit here. So here is a recent one I did that Mike Disney's on, and he plays Skarn. Here is Maldin. All right, so here's the Maldin spells. This comes right out of Demi-Human Deities, written by Eric Boyd. some great spells: strength of stone, stone fire. And there's another place we get some other spells from that I haven't even discussed yet. And notice I made some minor changes here. Eric. I made a couple changes to the spheres here, thinking I only gave them elemental earth and fire, not elemental all. I didn't think Maldin should have water and air. So
I should add something for the dwarf ones in particular.
Yep.
Some of this borrowed from what Ed Greenwood did in FR11 Dwarves Deep.
Okay.
So I don't want to claim credit for stuff if it already existed. So I did make a lot of changes and added a lot to the Dwarven one, but the specialty priests, a couple of them were in Dwarves Deep. So just so folks know that's another place that I was borrowing from. Because even when I would write this stuff, if I could borrow it, I would do so.
Right.
Sorry, I just answered the question. Yes, I will do that. If they're still on, I will absolutely raid into them, Balfrin. Thank you. So I also added a plus to hit with a Warhammer, figuring that's their main weapon of choice, giving them a little bit of benefit, because they don't get multiple attacks. They don't get 3 every 2 like some of them do at 7th or 8th. So I added that in. Made a couple changes here and there. Turn Undead wasn't down here at all, so I put that down as level, because figuring he's the main Pantheon deity and he's lawful good, he's going to have some turn of capability to Undead as opposed to some of the other ones. And then a book that I'm not sure that where the spell comes from. I thought it came from here, but it doesn't. I thought Rock Burst came from here. I guess I'm wrong. You gotta, if you really want to be go in depth here, you gotta comb through a lot of Dragon magazine articles and find.
Yeah, there is a lot of
find some spells
spread out. Yeah.
There is an article called "The Prayers of Stromp and Hevel" that give you spells from Clangeddin and some Mordin spells. It's really good. It's an article, and I pulled from there. You gotta really look around in depth. There's also, and I don't know who wrote this book. I never looked, and let me pop this one up too. This is called "Prayers of the Faithful." Eric, do you know who wrote that? Let me get this up here. Let me pop this one up. This has a lot of.
Oh, Prayers from the Faithful.
Yeah, Prayers from the Faithful. Yeah,
that's Ed Greenwood.
This was Ed. Okay, all right. This has
so context there, right?
Yep.
So Ed had been writing new wizard spells for years in his Pages from the Mages, right? Which was a fantastic series in Dragon that you could steal spells all day for wizards. And so he wrote that had all been bundled together as a product called Pages from the Mages, which was great.
Yep.
So he wrote the priest equivalent of that, and he actually, we don't really have the concept of priest spell books outside of maybe the Archivist class in 3rd edition from Heroes of Horror. But he basically wrote up a whole bunch of spell books, very loosely using the term, for priests, and he has a ton of great priest spells in there.
I know Red Knight's in here, I know Helm's in here, and I both steal from them back into Greyhawk, and a couple others. I think Alana, Myliki's in here, and I take them and convert them into Alana. There's a whole bunch of real good ones. Ilmater's in here too.
Yeah, and I think Torm is in there, who's easy to steal from for Heronius. There's a lot you can take from that book as well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I'm not sure if it's available in DM's Guild or not, but if you can get a hold of a copy, that and Pages from the Mages are great, because a lot of these compilations, you don't have to search through all the Dragon magazines from it. To give you an example of Pages from the Mages, Snowlock Snowball Swarm, for example, is out of that book, and I use that all the time. Everyone goes, even Luke Gygax goes, "What's the Snowlock spell I have on my list?" And that's a 2nd level spell that I love from Forgotten Realms. So that is a highly recommended book to get a hold of. Like I said, I don't care that it says Forgotten Realms on it. Utilize it. And there's great content in it. And once again, utilize it in 3rd edition, utilize it in 5th edition, and convert the spell to 5th edition rules. It doesn't hurt. You get variety is good for your players. You want
Forgotten Realms. Wizards are using Morden Kanan's Disjunction and Tensor's Floating Disk, and
absolutely
go both ways. Steal as
Denis,
much as you want.
Absolutely, and that's the great thing about it is utilize them. Prayer books could contain spells, absolutely. M5. They and the great thing is that when they compiled those books, it was perfectly done. I know during that second edition era, stuff got lost in the shuffle because there was so much. The brown books, the blue books, the green books, all the box sets. There was too much. But now when you go back and look at it, man, there was a lot of great data back then.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable stuff in that second edition.
That's why there's some of us who are still in second edition with tons of material that we haven't been able to use yet.
Dennis, I agree 100%. I love the era, and I play there just because when third came out, and the way they have prestige classes and all, I just didn't like. I love the way we 1E2Es played, and there's nothing wrong with that. You and I are the old school, and Eric says you're playing 3.0 or 3.5 now, Eric.
Right now, I'm playing 3, 5, and 5 in 2 different campaigns. Actually, yeah, 3 different campaigns. I'm running 2, and I'm playing 1. And there's 2 5Es and 1 3.5E. But I played in yours, and sort of that 1E 2E hybrid. It doesn't really matter to me as long as it's fun, as long as you have a role-playing hook.
Yeah. Let me. All right. So all right. Pick something else you'd like to talk about there, Dennis, as we're running down here in time. There's got to be a lot of other things. Like, what if you could make 1 or 2 up? What would you do next?
Geez, I don't know which ones I have to work on. It's part of that is going to be driven by the players. When I have players, well, about a year and a half ago, we started a new group of people, started a new campaign. But all of my campaigns are part of the same campaign. They're in the same camp. They're in the same timeline as all of the other people that have ever played. But I give them a list of all of the gods that are available, and I let them choose. And that part of the campaign is kind of more driven by the players than by me. If I have somebody who wants to create a character and really wants to play a priest of this sphere, I'll find an actual god that will match that. But then I'll create a new, if it has to be new, if it's not already existing in my collection of stuff, I'll create a new specialty priest. It's going to be up to the players, really. And unless I start off in a particular thread where I need a whole bunch of NPC priests, that's a different story. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to come up with a specialty priest of Therisden at some point.
Oh, and that's what I haven't done either. We should collaborate on that.
So I'm not sure how that's gonna go.
Yeah, seriously, we should collaborate on that and do it. That would be awesome to do.
Well, obviously we've got Lost Temple of Therisden as a good source, because those are theoretically, I mean, they're all dead, but it used to be occupied by priests of Therisden.
So I know we discussed this previously, Eric, about the Elder Elemental God versus Therisden versus all that gobbledygook and
Gonadar.
Gonadar. They're all separate in your opinion, correct?
I would probably go with separate, although I think having one of them be a aspect of another, like a false front for one of the others, also works great as a campaign. So I wouldn't go with just it's multiple names for the same dude, right? What I would go is either they're separate and they're part of the chaos of the universe, is the fact that they overlap in terms of their interests, or you pick one of them and you say the others are just simply sort of heretical cults of that main one. They're different.
Or I use pretending to be Vatun.
That's
that one I didn't like as much.
No, but I mean, you could theoretically have
Savage Company
a god who's actually another god with ulterior motives.
There are some. Whoops! I just zonked it again. There are some deities that are. What were they? I did it multiple times. What are they thinking? Sorry. I got so many screens open here.
I'm seeing
I'm protecting the
scary
crash.
skull.
I'm protecting the crash here.
I'm seeing a scary skull appear before my eyes.
What? So yeah, I agree on. I was not a fan of the Ratoon story. I know that Mike Bridges, the five shall be one, and the Howl from the North. I think Mike's like, where the hell were they going with this story, right? But that
was a novel
yeah.
idea. It was a novel idea,
but to make it a major plot line in From the Ashes is kind of tough to swallow.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
All right, Eric, look what I found. I forgot I don't know if I told you, but you were so close. Especially Priest is so easy to go up. Telegor Skunknorg, your specialty priest of Heronius Half Ogre. It made it to 5th level that easily from that last adventure. So I will get you that update. 60 hit points because you're a Half Ogre. So yes.
Crap.
Yes. So you have 3rd level spells now. So I'm
excited.
I'm trying to get Eric, Tony,
priest.
I'm trying to get Eric, Tony, and Ed to get back to me on a date that we can play again. I would love to continue that group because that was so much fun.
That was good.
Yeah, absolutely, get that thing rolling again. So, but it's cool. I will scan that in and I'll get that over to you so you can have that. So, so I know we're coming on time here and we're gonna do some shout outs and stuff. But so what, Eric? 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
How does one who's a 5th edition player kind of work this stuff into 5e? And what would you do?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I haven't done a ton of 5e design. I've done a little bit. But I'd probably basically do the same thing. Is 5th edition gives you the ability to customize your clerics just like any other race. And then arguably specialty priests were the beginning of the ability to customize every class, right? If you look at what 3rd edition built off of 2nd edition, it wasn't just clerics who could be customized, it was every other class. And 5th edition is no different than that in that way. So again, it really comes right back down to take a template. And the way I think about it is you have your list of what you want, and then you have to be reasonable. And so every time you add something into the list, you have to think about what you're taking off, right? So
Okay.
I would take one of, it doesn't matter what edition. It could be 4th edition, which I've never played, but it doesn't really matter what it is, there's 2 things to keep in mind. Basically, I call it my player hat and my DM hat. The player hat says I want it to be cool. And I have to envision, for tonight, I'm playing a cleric of Loviatar, and I want it to be the class that everybody else wishes they were playing. What do I have to do to make that happen? Right? So that's the player in me saying, give me all the special abilities. And then
the player hat is the hat that everybody wants to be a blade singer, right?
Exactly. And but the trick is for each of the gods for that one night that you're writing it up to pretend that that's the one you really want to be and go as cool as you can in that theme. And then the DM hat is like, oh my gosh, I could have this player in my campaign and it's going to break everything if I don't keep it balanced. And so that's the trade-off is, would you tolerate it in a campaign you're running, and would you find it exciting to play? So 5th edition, no different than any others. I would take one of the existing subclasses isn't the right word, but essentially subclasses of a cleric, and I would start modifying the heck out of it. I'd take something off the list and add something cool on the list and try to make them of roughly equal power until I got something that gave me the flavor I wanted, and then I would play that.
And I think Joe Block has done a lot of work on spells already converted, the named Greyhawk spells. I know it's all the mage ones. I don't know if he's done the clerical ones, but at least I know that there's a lot of specific spells that are converted to 5e already. So at least you can take a look there for some ideas on how those 1e, 2e, or 3e spells go over to 5. So that will help you out there. But there's no reason you can't have a Priest of Tritherion in 5th edition.
Nope.
None at all. And I think you should actually. I'm not saying it's a requirement, but I'm saying what are all the spheres of priests in 5e? I don't even know. There's like sun, war, whatever. It gets they're all the make them up to versus the deities. If I didn't have deities but that's not right, man. Busting 5e. So we're all inclusive here. I want everyone in all editions to feel welcome. You know, so. And that's it, Sparky, man. Join the community and grow it, and you know that's the thing. So here's what's cool. Maldin's got all those 10 deities you can download right now. All you gotta do is go to his website and download them. If there's any specifically you want from me, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to share them with you. I'm assuming that Eric would always be happy to pick his brain on questions. Eric's on. I know you're on Sages of Greyhawk. I know is that the top Facebook group that you're on for the most part, or is it old school TSR gamers too? I think
I'm probably gonna. Sages of Greyhawk is a great place to look. Happy to answer questions there.
Okay.
Really, I'm on a lot of different groups. I'm gonna answer any of them that I see. If you tag me, I'll probably answer them.
Right. And I am personally inviting both of you to join the Ask the Experts October 3rd, Sunday, again, for the finale event for Virtual Greyhawk Con 2, 7:30, October 3rd, Sunday evening. So please.
I hope I can make it. That sounds fun.
Awesome. I know you both participated in the one we did for GaryCon. It was a huge success.
Yeah, it was fun.
Pairs for the Faithful is available on DM's Gold. That is great to hear, Big Mac. That is fantastic. I'm glad to hear that it is available. So, anything you'd like to say in closing, Eric, for this discussion? This has been fantastic. What a wonderful night.
It's been a lot of fun. My thing is just pick the strangest god you can and just proselytize the heck out of it. It'll make your character memorable if you pick something unusual and then you take it to its logical extreme. That's why I always loved Specialty Priests. They were just so much fun to imagine playing that character for that one night, that really went in that direction.
Great advice, and I really appreciate you participating tonight. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Dennis.
Asher has a question.
Sure, let's answer it.
Is there a Specialty Priest of
furries?
Scroll back up here.
We can still from Forgotten Realms. Why? Because of the new owls or something in 5e? Is that why you're asking that?
No, I'm gonna give him a link here. Hang on a second. If you go to here.
29 months, man.
So it was something that Sam Weiss did. And I think he did it for 3rd edition, but it's on my website when we were putting together the Iron Gate stuff. Sam came up with Scratsavort, which is
instead of Ratsavort.
Instead of Ratsavort, it's Scratsavort, deity of squirrels and gliding mammals. And he's the patron deity of the hobloggers, of the halflings that are the loggers in the Iron Gate area. Anyways, that's as close as it gets to deity for furries. I'll tell you.
I was going to say on Jay's list, you could also go with Sharess.
Yes.
If you're into it, she's probably into it,
But yeah, he's totally got. He's got some new spells in there, a couple of new. All of this is Sam. This is none of Scratsavort I can take credit for. This is all Sam. But anyways, yeah. So he's even mentions Woolly Rupert in there. But yeah, there's your furry deity.
That's awesome. So any other thing you'd like to say in closing, Dennis?
No, not really. I mean, I've got so many things that I have partially completed for the website. I learned a long time ago that I can't promise any of them will get completed in any particular order. So no, it's just great being here with you guys and chit-chatting about stuff, and then everything else is kind of, what comes will come.
There are only so many hours in a day, man, and I understand that with real life stuff and all. And I was just so happy that we could put this all together, this discussion, get it concise. And Dennis, I want to say really thank you for putting that website up with all those links to it. I know that'll help out everyone. And Eric, without you, we wouldn't have this. I mean, think about
Jay, that. If you need a page where you can post your sheet, certainly
wow.
I can create a page for you, and
I think we should.
We can link a bunch of PDFs from your anything, whatever. But right now we're talking Specialty Priests. But yeah. If I don't know
So I
if
don't
you
have
have a
time for
regular web
recording.
page, you've got all the streams in that, but you can't really post things to a Twitch or site or YouTube site.
What I normally do is people ask me for them, and then I send them to them through Discord or email
Yeah.
and put them up
Well,
because
if you want a wider
right.
distribution, I can certainly give you a page, and probably Gary can set you up on Cannon Fire. But Cannon Fire is so huge; it's really hard
So
to
you
find
get lost
stuff
in the
on
weeds
Cannon
there a
Fire.
little
Yeah,
bit. That's a good
yeah,
thing and a bad thing, right?
it
There's so
is.
much on
It's both.
Cannon Fire.
It's both.
Well,
It's a
what
massive resource, but things get lost. Yeah.
I really appreciate that, and I think I would probably take you up on that and get one thing though. I got to get all these updated, right? So I got chicken scratch all over the place on half of them for the
Yeah,
third
yeah.
edition stuff. I really got to get that all updated, so I will do that. Well, thank you, George. So let's do some quick shout outs. Eric, what is going on that you want to shout out, or you want to tell everyone, let them know what you're doing?
So lately, I'm still writing a massive campaign, the campaign I always wanted to write. I'll eventually put it on DM's Guild. Your party goes from 1st to 18th and has to battle the
Wow.
Orc Horde. So hopefully I'll get that done one of these days. I'd love to talk sometime with Dennis and others about the Underdark of Greyhawk. I love his map. And so that to me would be a lot of fun someday.
Actually, that's one of the most recent updates that I did to the web page. Is I added a few more of the project, the Underdark project from the Dragon's Foot website.
Mhm.
I put up a few more of them up on there, but that's work that other people did like 15 years ago. Some of it's pretty old now. But yeah, Underdark stuff is awesome. Love to get together with you over some of that. Sure.
That'd be fun to talk about.
I know that you were a big a Night Below person, right, Dennis? And you expanded well beyond that, correct? You kind of incorporated that into your Underdark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Night Below is part of my Underdark, as is the setting that's described in the back half of the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide.
I thought the way you integrated that was fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Right now, that group of people that I mentioned, a new group of players that started about a year and a half ago, they're about halfway through Night Below right now. That's actually where we are now.
Very cool.
So that's cool.
Halfway through, what do you got, another year before?
Yeah, it may take that. Well, the pandemic really put a real damper on that sort of thing. But it took us a little while to get into Roll20, but now we play with Roll20 online. But yeah, I mean, for years I had, because I teach at a university, a lot of the people that were in my groups were grad students. They graduate and they leave.
And then you're like, what do I do now?
And then that's the end of that thread, that campaign thread. I have my regular player, Rick, who we've been playing since almost the beginning, almost since 1980.
Great.
For him. And he runs a bunch of parties. But this particular group,
John,
they're all people with real jobs, which means we can't get together every week as much as we would like to. Yeah, it's taken us about a year to, well, they started out in Greyhawk and did some other things, but we've been actually in Night Below for about 8 months, maybe something, 7 or 8 months, and we're not quite halfway through it. So yeah, it's gonna be a long haul campaign for sure.
I'm gonna try and do some controversy here real quick to both of you, and you can answer yes or no if that's all you wanted to answer. Because I'm working on getting all those back, all these people who did the top 30 adventures of all time out of the what was that, Dungeon magazine that they did those
Dungeon
years ago?
magazine?
Eric Mona, Gary Julian, and James Jacobs, and whoever, Monty Cook, whoever else I can get, Bauer on it. Night Below's not in the top 30. Should it be? Yes or no?
Oh, I think Night Below was a game changer, brilliant campaign. Yeah. Just the way it was designed, it was ahead of its time. Yeah, no, Night Below was definitely, I think, a really and part of it when Carl Sargent was kind of, I think, asked to do an Underdarky related project, he specifically thought to himself, and I read, I get this secondhand from people who knew him at the time. He did not want to do Drow,
Right.
because he thought Drow had been so overused. Well, but everything Underdark was Drow. He wanted a campaign that had nothing to do with Drow, and Night Below was what he came up with. And I think it's an excellent, well-designed campaign from start to finish, from low level to high level. There's a lot of new ideas in there. There's not a lot of rehashing of previous adventure ideas. It's great stuff. I really liked it. But
Awesome.
yeah, I don't know.
I have not had the privilege of running it. I've read it and I loved it. I thought it was great. I think it was, there's my list of really interesting campaigns that I'd like to run. They're not necessarily what everybody would put. So like I liked Red Hand of Doom as well, because it was a set of combined adventures.
That Jacobs,
it all
James
worked
Jacobs?
Yeah, and Rich Baker. It's a set of combined adventures. It really is a mini campaign in and of itself, and it's really, really well thought out and integrated. If you take some of the Kingdom of Ghouls stuff that was spread across multiple editions, multiple publishers, and you pull all that together, that was another one that felt really like a combined effort. So I like those kind of combined multi-adventure mini settings, I guess.
I just noticed that because we were talking the other night, and I was like, because I had Eric in that game last Saturday, and I'm like, what are we going to do next? I was like, let's do this. How about we comprise that as many people as we can who were in that discussion. Of course, I'm adding myself into that discussion, but of the top 30, because you know how much I hate Return to Temple of Elemental Evil, right? Because of that, and I don't want to start fighting with Monty about that, but that's not the 8th best adventure ever written. Sorry, there's way better ones, and like Bone Hill's not on there, and there's a lot that and I just would love to discuss. And James Jacobs admitted on during that stream, during the fundraiser, there was a lot of politics involved. He actually said that during the stream, and Gary Julian caught that James had said that. So I want to really try and go back and revisit, and not bust anyone's stuff, but just talk about it, because there's some really great stuff. Oh, John, thanks, man. There's some really great things that I'd love to get out, and that's the next big. We're going to try and have that before the S Experts on Virtual Greyhawk Con. Hopefully sometime end of August, beginning of September, get that group together on a Gabbin. So, I would love to do that. That's the next big thing that is going to be going on. So, but Dennis, you got anything else you'd like to shout out before we roll here? And then I'll do some quickies, and then we'll do the giveaway, and then we're gonna raid into GaryCon Live, which is Stefan Picorni is DMing her Luke Gygax and all, and I think it's his Halflings adventure. I forget the name of it, but thank you. I think this is one of our best Gabbins we've had this year. I think this has been fantastic. So this is what's going on, everyone. So we got 2 days off. Wednesday night, another great discussion. Greyhawk Mike, Anna Meyer, and myself. We go to hopefully. Look, I haven't crashed the stream yet, but let me flip here real quick. Okay, Markland's Eye is the Evil discussion. Okay, so there we go. We got two Sergeant publications. I consider them linked. I consider them the second best publications ever put out in conjunction. I like the Free City Greyhawk box set, and I think these are fantastic if you're using these for Greyhawk-based adventures. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. We're going to discuss both of these publications on Wednesday. Great Legends and Lore coming up. Thursday night, I finally figured out what I'm doing. We're going to do an adventure out in the Sus, Malevolence at the Tree of Life. This will tie in with what's going on with Zugtamui, Eric. The Xanthori adventure that Tony Winslow Brill wrote had a lot of long-lasting effects in my campaign in the Selene Sus Forest area, where a lot of creatures died, a lot of the rangers and the defenders of the forest died, and now there's a group that has to go deep into the Sus to find out what's going on at this tree, these trees of goodness that they don't want anything to happen
So
to
you
them.
want a deity to steal from the realms?
Please.
Take Moander.
Bit of Moander, yes. It was
Moander and Zugtamoy, bride and groom.
nice. Is Moander a dead god or a live god?
He dies every other week.
That's awesome. So yeah, that wow. Okay, Bits of Moander. Bits of Moander were in one of the gold box games. I forget which one it was, and they were always like,
World
"Oh
of
my god!"
Radiance.
Yes, that's it. They were always so tough. That was fun. Saturday morning, we have the ever mysterious. Tim did not come on because Tim's having computer issues. Tim's campaign that is continuing his Barbarian campaign, Desperate Land Part 2, in the Rovers of the Barrens. These are all first level characters. 10 a.m., 4 hours. Tim's DMing. I sit back and produce it. So we'll see that on Saturday morning. And then next Sunday is a huge Gabbin. We have another very special guest. An actual miniature sculptor, Christine Van Patten, who works for Reaper, who works for Dark Sword, on with Art of Mike Disney and Build a Master Crafter. So we're going to sculptor, painter, and crafter. And what we're going to do is go over start to finish what happens, how you create a miniature, how a figure gets created. Yeah, and in our miniature game, yes, this is going to be a really cool discussion. This was Bill's idea, my friend Bill, the Master Crafter, who does all of our terrain work and all our miniature painting, and Mike Disney facilitated it. We got her to go on the show. Going to be a wonderful, wonderful show next week, and that's as far out as I am on set shows, everyone. So just to let you know. So let's get this giveaway set. Then we're going to raid into Gary Con Live, and all right, and then we'll call it a night. Thank you all for a wonderful show. Thank you once again, Eric. Thank you, Dennis. Here we go. Let's do this giveaway here. $25 gift certificate for the winner that goes out to, and I will almost immediately send this to you. It goes to the winner of this from Troller Games, one of our great sponsors. Oh, closing entries. The winner is Dinar Dude. Wow, is that a first for you, Dinar Dude? I think it is. A first-time winner, and I love to see that. So, awesome.
Congrats.
Right. So I will, Dinar Dude, either give me your Discord or give me an email address that's easier. Whisper it to me, and I will immediately send you the code tonight as soon as I'm done all my post-stream stuff I got to do from Twitch. Grats, everyone. All right. I haven't crashed the stream yet. Let's raid into Gary Con Live, everyone. Once again, Eric and Dennis, thank you. Thank you so very much.
It was fun.
Awesome.
I had a great time.
See you all soon. Have a great night. See you Wednesday night.
Bye.
All right. Get to see some Luke Gygax and stuff and McCorney playing here. Raid in. Let's get to Gary Con Live. Let's see if we can get 70 or 80 in there. That would be so awesome. There we are. 75, 77. Oh, wonderful. 78. Wonderful. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Awesome. That's a great number.
Yeah, that was great.
That was awesome. That was fantastic. That was a
I didn't even look at the numbers. How